mean you don't want to fall in love? Hmm? Now the only way I can quench your thirst.
I do not have any thirst. Thank you.
Kati yangu na wewe nani anaweza piga mwingine?
Isipokuwa mimi na Saeka, mimi nilikuwa mchezaji ya wrestling.
Ulikuwa mtu ya wrestling?
Yes.
Yaona. Mark that. Tuendelee.
Mimi sasa nikienda kwa Dobi, ani kombolesha nguo nivae, nitakuwa nimehandle stolen property.
Unakomba kwa Dobi.
Wewe unaelewa sheria kabisa.
Makoa, hiyo unasikia kwa hapo ni kuajiriwa na ajiriwa. Na kuna suti za kukomboleza hapo. Wewe toka wende. Kwa maanisha amepatikana na nguo ya wishi. Nani alikuwa anatakana kushtakiwa? Ni mimi ama ni huyo?
Mzee, tuelewane hapa.
Sasa huyu mtu kwa bahati mbaya si alifunjwa paka poni, mheshimiwa.
Alifunjwa?
Paka poni, mheshimiwa, paka poni ya huku.
Do you know I know the one of the laundry?
Shut up. You are talking with me.
Sasa umeanza nini?
Sasa anaanza kunitusi
na wewe umeanza kuambia watu shut up kwa nini?
Sasa niaulize swali ya maana.
Don't try to confuse me.
You are confusing me.
So hii suit imeandikwa nini?
Good morning. Habari asubuhi. Welcome to Good Morning Kenya. This is how we do it every good morning. It's 6:30. You know, waking up at that time ungodly hours of the morning is never easy, but we do it because we need to update you, we need to educate you, we need to get you informed about what is happening in Kenya and of course across the world. Now, we have got 3 newspapers, apart from Regina who doesn't have one. We'll get back to that. Let's, Director, do we have a split? If you can. It's like, this is where we are. So on the front page of the local dailies today, we have Raila Unleashed. That is what's on the front page of the Standard. Vivian, what do you have there?
For the Star, we have a Ruto game plan to propel Raila's AUC campaigns.
And Mike?
On the Daily Nation, they're saying Raila's show of power. Yeah.
Regina, what can you create? Your own headline.
Africa literally endorsed Raila Odinga's bid for the AU chairmanship position.
That's a good headline if you had a newspaper, shortened. So basically what's happening is several heads of state were at State House yesterday, and President William Ruto officially unveiled Raila Odinga as a candidate to that position of AUC. So let's wait and see, because now it's campaign. The turbo imefunguliwa, that's what they say. Wamefungua turbo, and it's now campaigns back to back with lots of shuttle diplomacy. We'll be taking that discussion later on at around 7 a.m. In the program. So stay around for that. Vivian.
Yes, a very good morning to each and every one of you who is tuned in on the show this morning. Always glad to have you start off your morning with us. And during that unveiling that happened yesterday, of course, we were watching it right here live on KBC, and the president also unveiled the secretariat that will be in charge of Raila Odinga's campaign. So they are going full force on this one. And by the way, if Raila Odinga gets to clinch this seat come February, he will be the first ever leader from East Africa to have that seat. So it's going to be a big one for East Africa. I guess that's why they're all also just rallying behind him. Well, Raila mentioned that if elected, he is going to ensure that Africa will be a visa-free continent, that is within Africans. If you are in Africa, you won't need a visa to go to another African country. And he also promised to ensure the continent gets to benefits from its own minerals, among other things. And yeah, we'll be keeping tabs on that as well. And today we also get to launch the strategic plan for KBC for the year 2023 to 2027, right? Yeah, so that will also be happening, and we will be keeping tabs on that as well. Mike.
Yes, Vivian. And the issue about Raila is going to bring about, or we are going to see how he will fare in the continental politics, and also how his candidature, and should he clinch that seat, how it's going to impact the politics within the country. Welcome to the program. My name is Mike Migwi. Before I hand you over to Regina Manyara, I have a quote here.
Quote us.
Yes. Do not look back on happiness or dream of it in the future. You are only sure of today. Do not let yourself be cheated out of it. Do not look back on happiness or dream of it in the future. You are only sure of today. And do not let yourself be cheated out of it. Ray.
What do you make of that?
Basically, whoever made that quote was just talking about the power that we have in the present.
Yes.
So if you're mindful of where you are, maybe you will actually determine your future. So why worry about the past if you're living in the present? And I like that. That is forward thinking. Now, we start off this particular bulletin on that particular update on what happened yesterday at State House, as the East African Community Regional Bloc formally endorsed Kenya's African Union candidate, that is Raila Odinga, in his bid to succeed the outgoing chairperson, Musa Faki Mahamat. Here's John Jacob Curia with the details.
State House, Nairobi. Raila Odinga's journey to Addis Ababa is officially kicking off. The state rolling out the red carpet for Raila as he enjoyed a protected convoy. To build support around his candidature, Kenya had invited East African community heads of state and government for the official unveiling. And one by one, Presidents Yoweri Museveni of Uganda, Samia Suluhu Hassan of Tanzania, Salva Kiir of South Sudan, who doubles up as the East African Community Chairperson, the Prime Minister of Burundi, Gervais Dirakubucha, and Rwanda's Minister of State for Foreign Affairs in charge of regional cooperation, James Kabarebe, trooped to the unveiling arena. Somalia had sent its envoy in Nairobi, while the Democratic Republic of Congo, which has also promised to back Raila, was the only nation not represented. President Ruto, while unveiling Raila, termed him a visionary Pan-African with ideal credentials to lead the AU Commission.
He embodies extensive experience and a deep understanding of both African affairs and global dynamics, which are crucial for leading the African Union further into the center of global affairs and closer to the hearts of the African people.
I am made in Eastern Africa for Africa. You have said that I'm an Afro-optimist as opposed to Afro-pessimist. Afro-pessimists are those people who have given up on Africa, who say Africa is a lost cause.
The head of state, while pledging support for the entire campaign, said the former premier would continue to champion for reforms in the African Union, including multilateral institutions under it.
I know that Honorable Raila not only possesses the requisite credentials, but he is also the ideal candidate to lead the Africa Union Commission. Accordingly, Kenya endorses his candidature unreservedly, and we commit wholeheartedly to support his candidature, his vision, and his leadership.
But I'm here as the African lion. I've been asleep in the jungles of the Congo, but now I'm awake, and I'm sitting on African gold, African oil, African diamonds, African iron and copper ores. I'm sitting on African bauxite. I'm sitting on African lithium and coltan and uranium. And I have the ability to transform all these materials that I have into wealth for the benefit of my people.
We are here, Your Excellency, as a country to unveil Kenya's finest to go and lead Africa.
The East African leaders endorsing Raila not only hailed his Pan-African record, but his vast knowledge on geopolitical dynamics.
It is with all this in mind that the government of the United Republic of Tanzania endorses the candidature of Right Honorable Raila Amolo Odinga for the position of chairperson of the African Union Commission.
As a chairman of the East Africa community, I strongly appeal to the region to rally behind Right Honorable Odinga and adopt him as the region's candidate.
Let us show the world that Africa is ready to take its destiny into its own hands, to speak with one voice, and to work together for a betterment of all our people by electing Honorable Raila Odinga as chairman of the African Union Commission.
We need a person at this critical stage of our development in Africa. But at this situation, the present situation of the world, where we have a fractured world.
I wish you the very best, and I'm sure if you get that position, Africa will get the best.
We are all aware that Mr. Raila Odinga has gone through a lot and has the respect of the entire continent.
But it was President Museveni who had a more hard-hitting statement after dismissing the Djibouti candidate, Mohamed Ali Yusuf, as an inexperienced candidate on matters Pan-Africanism.
Before I came, there was a young man from Djibouti. He came. The young man I normally see him that he's a minister. He came and told me that he was the one who was the candidate for Djibouti. Of course, I greeted him well. We took photographs. We had a cup of tea. But I told him, I said, no. I actually told him that I was coming here to support Right Honorable Raila because he's a candidate who is fit for this job.
Raila's campaign secretariat will be led by his close confidant Elkanah Odembo and Foreign Affairs PS Korir Sing'oei.
Well, we were live and there was quite the speeches. There were quite the speeches that were made yesterday. And if you're watching it live, there was also a bit of a technical hitch while we were trying to play that video at the start there, where actually it formed a form of conversation and a light moment, especially on social media with social users. Some even alluding to the fact that, you know, someone might actually be out of a job after that particular official unveiling there. Well, in case you missed it, we were live. You can always go back to our YouTube channel on yesterday's date and have a feel of exactly what was said by whom. Now, back home, Azimio Coalition Co-Principal Kalonzo Musyoka has declared himself as the official opposition leader following the launch of Raila Odinga's campaign for the African Union Commission chairperson seat. Speaking at SKM Center alongside other Azimio Alliance parties, affiliate parties, Kalonzo said the coalition will remain intact despite Odinga's exit from the political arena as he pursues the continental role.
Embarks on this new chapter, the Azimio Coalition remains steadfast with a firm commitment and shared objectives of addressing the issues of concern to our people. we continue to advance the people's agenda for the socio-economic and political transformation and always build on the foundations laid by our leader.
We have the responsibility, of course, as he exits the Rokos to ensure that the part of the constitution that requires a vibrant opposition is kept going. And under the leadership of our official leader of opposition, Mheshimiwa Stephen Kalonzo Musyoka, and all those here and many others who are not here, we believe that we have that responsibility as part of ensuring that the Constitution of 2010 is implemented.
If he was still actively participating in politics in Kenya, and that is to keep checks and balances in the excesses of the government, we will ensure, as those who are remaining in opposition, that we fight for Kenyans. We will ensure that the government, that which they promised, is in.
Well, that was yesterday, and we're going to be keeping tabs on what happens now in the local political scene with that particular declaration by Kalonzo Musyoka, as he being the head of the opposition, official opposition in the country, as well as now the official, shuttle diplomacy that is expected, to just, enhance or rather intensify after that particular unveiling. Yesterday was day 2 of the Kuppet strike, and the Employment and Labor Relations Court has temporarily suspended the ongoing teachers' strike called by the Kenya Union of Post-Primary Education Teachers. Now, the Teachers Service Commission had moved to court, arguing that concerns raised by the striking teachers had already been addressed. This as the government says all teachers in public schools will by the end of this week get their July and August salary increment after it released 13.5 billion shillings as part of the 2021-2025 collective bargaining agreement. Here's Frederick Pasayo with the details.
The Kenya Union of Post-Primary Education Teachers Kuppet has suffered a setback after the Employment and Labor Relations Court suspended the ongoing strike by its members, who majority are secondary school teachers. The Teacher Service Commission had moved to court to challenge the action, claiming the demands raised by the teachers, among them access to medical cover, career progression guidelines and promotions, are already being addressed administratively. While giving the ruling, Justice James Rick ordered the teachers to stop the industrial action. The case will be mentioned on September 5th for further directions. This is Education CS Julius Ogamba says the government is engaging Kuppet in resolving the matter so that learning could continue smoothly across the country.
These issues are administrative in nature. In fact, it is not in the CBA. What was in the CBA was the payment. That has been done. But these are legitimate issues that they have and which the government is responding to.
The CS said the government will employ 20,000 teachers by the end of the year.
Government will employ an additional 20,000 teachers by the end of the year to ease the shortage of staff in public schools.
But as the government assured the parents and learners of a possible breakthrough, Kuppet members and KISI remain adamant on resume duty until the Employer Teacher Service Commission adheres to their demands fully.
Walimu wa KISI kaunti wa shule za upili na CSS tumesema tuende kasini. Haya maneno ambayo wanasema ya kwamba sisi kama walimu tumelipwa pesa ya CPA ilikuwa maneno ya mdomo tupu.
So was the situation in Narok town after teachers scattered activities along Narok Bomet Highway.
Teachers of Narok did not go to school as they heeded the advice from the union. Today, we are now moving around the town. We are bringing the town to a standstill.
And in Embu County, Kuppet members stormed Embu East Sub-County offices to present their grievances.
We would wish the government to actually do as directed by the courts. The court pronounced itself. It is said that the JS teachers should be confirmed into permanent and pensionable basis.
And the same was replicated in Trans Nzoia County after teachers vowed not to step in class until all of their demands are met by the employer's Teacher Service Commission.
Wasipeleke watoto shuleni kwa sababu walimu hawako kule.
Basi tafadhali, au unawaona hapa ni walimu wa sekondari. Wakati unatuma mtoto wako shule, ujue ya kwamba hayuko katika mikono yetu. Sisi tuko nyumbani na sisi tuko barabarani.
Well, that was just a recap of what had transpired earlier in the day before that decision by the courts to, give a stay or on matters of the Kuppet strike there. So we're waiting to see if by end of week indeed government will honor its promise there to release salaries for June and July as per the CBA of 2021. Still in the courts is that a Milimani Magistrate Court has given a man charged with conspiring to defraud a parcel of land worth 0.6 billion shillings with a 5 million shillings bond. The accused Francis Mohoho Ndinguri, who pleaded not guilty, was also charged with 2 other counts, among them falsely presenting himself as the director of Mesa Langton Investment Limited. Details of this in our Scales of Justice segment with Ruth Wamboy.
Appearing before Senior Principal Magistrate Mother Nanzushi Tuesday, Mo said he did not conspire to steal the 22-acre piece of land located along the Northern Bypass Road.
Hilo ni la dhamana ya bilioni 1,619,700 ambayo ni mali ya Langton Investment Limited.
The court was informed that on 24th February last year, a certain certificate of registration was forged and purported to be the one belonging to Mesa Langton Investment Limited. According to the prosecution, a provincial certificate of title was also doctored.
I'll also give you the option of giving us 2 sureties, the security that comes to the 5 million. In the alternative, you will give us a cash pay of 1 million.
Pre-trial conference is set for 10 September. Elsewhere, the Directorate of Criminal Investigation has been given the green light to hold a suspect for 3 days as they had requested.
Ombi langu ni kuwa mshukiwa aweze kuwa katika kituo cha polisi cha Capitol Hill kwa siku ambazo ni 3 kumaliza uchunguzi wetu.
Investigating officer Peter Githinji told trial magistrate Mother Nanzoshe that Edward Otundo smuggled concealed goods in a truck which need to be subjected to forensic analysis. The miscellaneous application will be mentioned on 30th August. Ruth Wamboy for Good Morning Kenya.
That takes us to matters business, where the private sector, which has been instrumental in driving the growth of Kenya's ICT sector, is calling for more proactive measures from the government to safeguard the country's digital infrastructure. Baobab Managing Director Sylvia Anampio noted that facilitating efficient policy reforms will encourage infrastructure sharing to enhance efficiency and reduce costs across board. Trevor Ngendo with the details.
Recent undersea cable disruptions have exposed the fragility of Kenya's digital infrastructure, which private players in the ICT sector now want to address by developing a national long-distance fiber network through the railway line from Mombasa to Malaba.
Eliminating the digital divide is the hurdle, the task that we must surmount, each in our own ways and according to our capacity to deliver Kenya's digital promise and broadband.
Strategic integration of terrestrial and undersea cables in Kenya creates a more resilient and redundant network, reducing the risk of service interruptions.
But this is not just for us in Kenya. This is a regional solution. And we are excited because the industry has been challenged, really, to roll out more fiber in partnership with the government. And so this is a bold step. 1,000 kilometers of fiber, my friends, is not a small deal.
This 1.7 billion shillings alternative route for data transmission network by Baobab, they believe, will enhance redundancy and reduce the country's dependence on vulnerable undersea cables. However, the biggest hurdle they want addressed is the high cost of operation, among other policy reforms, in order to make Kenya competitive.
Our cable runs across multiple counties in the country. So we'll have the wayleave charged by KENHA, let's say, by Kenya Railways, and then we'll have the county of Mombasa, for example, the county of Kiambu, the county of Nairobi, charging the same wayleave. So we are having some sort of double charging, making business really expensive.
The government hopes to connect up to 100,000 kilometers of cable network in the next 3 years, with 48,000 kilometers from the private sector.
Now to agriculture, Kenya plans to halve its rice imports in the next 5 years through cultivation of new hybrid rice varieties. Agriculture Cabinet Secretary Andrew Karanja says Kenya has partnered with several African countries to share seeds and crucial rice production information under 6.4 billion shillings South Korea-funded program.
Kenya imported 937,000 tons of rice worth 55 billion shillings in 2023 to cover the nearly 80% deficit. The government says it now plans to reduce rice imports by 50% in the next 5 years through increased production. Kenya has signed a memorandum of understanding with other 37 African countries to exchange rice seed varieties and crucial rice information.
Lifestyles change. We are moving from maize and the urbanization. Mostly households are moving to rice. And that is why you see the demand is rising. And our capacity to produce, yes, we have the potential to produce more, but currently we are not able to satisfy our production. Our production is not able to satisfy. Actually, it is about 15%, 20%.
The MOU is under a South Korea-funded program that will see Kenya receive 4 billion shillings for rice development and production.
The development of agricultural science and technology will surely help to promote African economy as well.
Korea is a perfect example for us, is because even then they don't have big farms. They have very small farms, but very high productivity because of using certified seed and very intensive management systems.
Already 28 rice varieties have been developed, with Kenya ready to roll out 3 hybrid varieties in rice growing regions.
As Calro, we are going to produce seed or basic seed, which now can go to private sector who can produce certified seed extensively for use across the country.
Kenya's per capita rice consumption is expected to hit 30 kgs by 2027 from the current 28 kgs, raising the demand to an estimated 2 million tons from the current average of 1 million tons annually.
Now, legal proceedings related to Old Mutual Holdings PLC will not affect services rendered by other entities within the Old Mutual Group, including honoring insurance claims as well as investment services. In the matter before court, the petitioner claims that the minority shareholders have been denied access to important company records, including financial statements, minutes of board meetings, and other documents. The petition also seeks to have Old Mutual Holdings Limited liquidated under the provisions of the Companies Act and the Insolvency Act.
This is a dispute at a shareholder level. It doesn't impact our staff and how operations continue.
This follows the sale of the Tanzanian subsidiary last month. Acknowledging the court order, Oginga affirmed it only affects Old Mutual Holdings PLC, while other entities continue with normal operations.
We will continue to pay claims as usual, and I think that is what makes for a business that has investor confidence and customer confidence.
At the same time, the group has rolled out a capacity-building initiative targeting smallholder businesses.
We are bringing onto this entire place, onto this ecosystem, things that SMEs need around risk mitigations, around investments, around insurance.
Both ourselves as well as our competitors, reinsurers, are working quite hard to try and find solutions around agriculture,
towards making insurance products attractive to MSMEs. To sports, a VetLab Sports Club duo of Edward Mwangi and Mary Carano is looking forward to the grand finale of the NCBA Golf Series set for November this year. The pair won the hotly contested Division 1 category, which attracted 224 players at the latest leg of the NCBA Golf Series, securing tickets for the grand finale set for November.
Playing off handicap 12, Edward Mwangi managed to take the top spot at the latest leg of the NCBA Golf Series after garnering 46 points ahead of Sunil Parmar, who posted 38 points. Mary Carano topped the ladies Division 1 category with 36 points, playing off handicap 12 as well. In Division 2, Kennedy Mariga's 41 points saw him clinch top honours in the men's category, with Rachel Day playing off handicap 15, emerging victorious in the ladies category. Benjamin Chemweno was the overall winner in Division 3 with 41 points, playing off handicap 31 with Parv Karvia, handicap 9, joining the list of the junior golfers set to play at the grand finale after topping the junior category on 30 points. Handicap 10 James Mbui finished first in the guest category after picking 39 points, while handicap 32 Eric Nabutola was the staff winner with 41 points. Meanwhile, NCBA Group has entered into a strategic partnership with Yen Golf aimed at enhancing the golfing experience for enthusiasts across the region and empowering entrepreneurs through golf skill building and networking opportunities. The collaboration, facilitated through Yen Africa Golf Program, Yen Golf seeks to provide exclusive discounts to golfers and promote active lifestyles through the sport of golf. And boys 13 to 14 years winner Justin Ngeera played an impressive 1 over par 73 to win the NCBA US Kids Tournament. Ngeera played 39 on the front 9 and an impressive 34 on the back 9 to win the category with a score of 73 that included 5 birdies. Peter Gadhogo finished second with a score of 76, with Yuvraj Rajput closing the top 3 with a score of 78. In the boys 12 years category, Palash Tank and Jeff Ikivi tied with a score of 80, forcing the only playoff of the day. Palash won the playoff to be ranked first and collected the previous winner's 30 points. Muridhi Gatu finished third with a score of 83, 3 strokes off the top 2 players. In the boys 11, Adam Nesbitt was impressive with a winner's score of 79 in a category that attracted 9 players. Sichao Huang finished second with a score of 83, as Alexandra Mbuga ended up third with a score of 87.
That puts a cap on matters in the headlines. Be sure to peruse our website, that is www.kbc.co.ke. Some of the developing issues, especially in the political scene, is now what impact will that particular AU chairmanship bid? Raila Odinga being now that he is seemingly the EAC candidate to represent Africa. What does this mean for the political scene, as Kalonzo deems himself the leader of the opposition? Does that change? And how does that matrix then fit into the current political dynamics? That's a conversation you're bound to have in not too long, so do keep it right here and be part of the conversation. Get us on X at KBC Channel 1. Have a pleasant day. I'm Regina Manyara.
Thank you for joining us on Healthy Living. Stay connected to Voice of America at voanews.com. A look at your kidneys and how they impact your health. And an expert discusses chronic kidney disease and how to protect yourself. And Ivorian psychologist Noor Bakayoko shares some insights on bullying and what can be done.
It's important to avoid major events or major health crises.
How do you know if your cough is due to a serious condition? We'll have some answers. Stay well
and strive to make every day a healthy day.
Ever crazy. Undoubtedly entertaining and mind-boggling. The savage netizens capturing that unique moment.
Wondering if you'll be coming home. I've been listening for the phone. Seems like it's taking a chance alone.
It has stopped this cultural diffusion, spreading fear and confusion, playing cloak under a wall, losing what you're fighting for. Back.
You're on the highway. I ain't taking no calls on my struggles in the rearview mirror. If you ain't going my way, then you can get off and turn up and let the music play.
Sarah, I need you here with me. Don't leave me.
Shisha, is your mind thinking what my mind is thinking?
Maybe this rush over school is finally closing. Will you wipe that smug of a smile out of your face? Is that something to be happy about?
Now guys, I want us to write down the craziest, not the craziest, the most impossible day you'd want someone to do.
Ah, my guys, go on your pole. But this thing is very, very important.
I got to go. Madam, what's the hurry for? You mean you don't want to fall in love? Now I'm the only way I can quench your thirst.
I do not have any thirst. Thank you.
Welcome to What's in Your Kitchen, a show that celebrates African and Kenyan dishes.
Well, be careful.
Yes, because I've seen some fire jump there.
Rusha. Wait.
Recipes cooked by African guest cooks, pro chefs, and foodies alike.
These ones are going in the potatoes.
This is, and look at our corn, it's doing it. And we are barely 2 minutes.
Okay, it's already smelling so good.
Coming up on What's in Your Kitchen.
Siku zinasonga sambamba na matukio yanavyojiri.
Kuyajua hayo, mbali na hamasa zilizopo kwingineko, shirika la utangazaji KBC limejitolea kuhakikisha ubora wa matangazo yasiyo na chuku.
Darubini huangazia mengi ya kusini na kaskazini, mashariki na magharibi, na kukuwasilishia kwa njia stahiki.
Ufasaha, usawa, uketo, pasipo kuegemea upande wowote.
Iwapo hutakishaka kwa unachoarifiwa, Darubini itakidhi mahitaji yako.
Jina langu ni Nancy Onyancha.
Na mimi ni Harith Salim.
Jina langu ni Gladys Mungai.
Mimi ni Ahmed Jumabalo.
Nami ni Sarafina Robi.
KBC, angazo la Wakenya.
Welcome back to the program. Karibu sana. It's now 9 minutes past 7 a.m. Good morning. Welcome to Good Morning Kenya. Today being the Wednesday, we want to take a look at the viewpoint, but with special focus on now that full endorsement to the AU position. Raila Odinga was officially unveiled yesterday by President William Ruto at State House in Nairobi. 8 regional heads of states and representatives attended, amongst other diplomats and even some dignitaries who were also at State House in Nairobi. So today, I really want us to get or go broad-based. Yes, so that's the word today. I want to have a kind of broad-based discussion on the importance of Raila Odinga's AU bid. I know it has been discussed, but then now it's now quite open that he is the candidate who is going to carry Kenya's flag to that position. Elections is slated for February next year, but now moving forward is going to be campaigns after campaigns after campaigns. But it is not yet over because we still have other candidates who are also angling for the same position. Let me do this. Let me introduce my guest. I have got Dr. Joseph Rotich. He's not new to Jerusalem here on set. Doctor, welcome to the program.
Thank you, Lo.
And even engineer, I said almost engineer Rotich. Yeah. Engineer Crispus Wathemba.
Thank you so much.
Karibu sana.
Thank you so much.
You are all not new to Jerusalem.
Yeah.
And gentlemen, we've discussed this before. So it is, the green light is on. So it's all of us now to go. Let me start with you, Crispus. First again, once again, welcome. It's been a while.
Yeah.
Whatever happened at State House Nairobi, perhaps people did not see it come the way it was, but it happened.
For me, I'm looking at it as a very important milestone in terms of the diplomatic influence that William Ruto administration has demonstrated it has over the region. For quite some time, people thought Kenya had lost it in terms of the kind of influence it has over the other regional states.
Yes.
But clearly, by William Ruto being able to marshal the leadership of Uganda and Tanzania to come and in a solidarity manner support the candidature of Raila Amolo Odinga is a clear demonstration that Kenya still has an important position in the region. And therefore, we need to stop viewing this as a Raila's bid, as a Kenyan bid, but as a regional bid where the East African region has an opportunity to demonstrate its leadership over the rest of Africa.
Yeah.
And for a long time, East Africa has remained very peaceful. Despite the various challenges we've seen in Somalia, in Ethiopia, now in DRC, we have still remained a very peaceful and resolveful region. And therefore, we need to take this opportunity now that we have one of us who is pushing to be the leader of the EAU, the African Union, to demonstrate our ability to marshal Africa towards the Agenda 63. And the Agenda 63 is an agenda that we all want to identify with. We had our own Vision 2030, which is 5 or 6 years away. Now, Agenda 63 is about 32 years away, 31 years away. How can we take advantage of it? How can we make sure that as East Africa, we are able to set the foundation that will make sure that by the time 2063 arrives, Africa is in a better position than it is today.
Yes.
One of the areas we need to address, the issue of trade within Africa. We are told that we trade around 18% compared to how much we trade with other parts of the world. How can we increase that from 18 to 50% to 70%? The other issue is the closed borders. You find today, for example, if I want to go to Mauritania, I must fly to Istanbul, then come back to Africa. How can we open our skies? How can we make sure that we are able to have borderless, the borders are clear within the region? How can we be able to manage the issues of disease? For example, we have mpox right now. We have challenges of hunger in the southern part of Africa. We have had our own challenges with the floods recently and climate change. How do we come together and be able to work together as a continent without depending on the support of the West and the East?
Dr. From what we saw yesterday, it is now time for East Africa Bloc to lose this, because history has that we've never had a representative at the AUC as East Africa. So it is now the Bloc to lose this.
I think, as I listen to the dignitaries, I mean the presidents, President of Tanzania, Salva Kiir of Sudan, Yoweri Museveni of Uganda, and His Excellency the President William Ruto. The way they loaded Raila on his achievement and as an African statesman, and the kind of experience that is bringing to the AU chairmanship is something that we must be proud of, Olo. Because when you look at Raila's candidature, you see a beacon of hope to African countries, and more so the East African countries. Because when I looked at them, it is like it is a God-given opportunity. When they talked, you saw Suluhu actually expressing the hope that the East African countries will benefit a lot from the AU position through the experience man in the person of Right Honorable Raila Odinga. And to me, I can see Raila as somebody who is capable with the kind of experience that he has. And as an African statesman, Raila goes beyond Kenya. And that experience alone, that know-how beyond the borders of East Africa is an advantage to his candidature, even in the coming election. So I have a lot of hope that as Raila actually spoke, as Raila expressed his hope to enhance the economy of Africa, that we have abundance of resources in Africa that, if harnessed well, will benefit the African countries who are actually languishing in poverty. And I'm looking forward to Raila's exploiting his real potential as a leader, as a potential... I looked at him as an economist, because when he was expressing about the potential that is in Africa, the potential that is in our economies, I could see that there is some hope at the light of the tunnel. Otherwise, we hope the best, and we wish him the best, even in this endeavor for the African scene.
My question still stands. It is now time for East Africa to lose this one, because we've never had any candidate there. What does it really mean generally for the East Africa? Because when you saw these leaders come, and Museveni made a light joke that you're the people who invited me here. So it's a show of unity amongst the East Africa bloc and members, the representatives who showed us.
I think going by that alone,
this time around it is ours to take home.
Going by that alone, I saw the heart beats of the three leaders of the East African countries. Actually, they saw Raila as one of their own. It is now our time, it is now our opportunity to lead the very important docket in Africa as the chairman. And when I saw that, Olo, I looked at myself beyond Kenya. I saw myself as an African and the East African who will stand to benefit even from the leadership of Right Honorable Raila Odinga. And this in itself is an opportunity for Africa, Olo, because when you have your man at the top, and even as the world is talking, we have over 50 African countries who will be looking at Kenya to produce a leader of that stature of the Right Honorable Raila Odinga. I feel this is something we should be proud of as Kenyans. This is something we should be proud of as East African people. And of course, it was said also it was an opportunity for the East Africa. We have never had it before. So, if you overheard what Museveni said, that somebody came who was also eyeing for the same position, and he did welcome him in his country, but he never assured him that he was going to support him. And in his mind, he said he had his own, the Right Honorable Raila Odinga, and he loaded him with a lot of praises. And so, although what we can say, this is a great opportunity for the East African countries to have a leader who is coming from within them to lead the African nation.
But even when that was happening, Engineer, you listened to that statement, and Raila said it is not a one man's journey, but a collective ambition, or one man's ambition to get a job or something of that sort. But it's a collective journey to serve the motherland. That is Africa. When you listen to such kind of a statement, and even from most of the dignitaries who spoke there, they call him Raila Odinga is a reformist, a Pan-Africanist. He's a visionary leader, an astute leader. He's not the same Raila that we know here, but outside Kenya, he's being held in high esteem.
Well, you see, there are a lot of voices that are coming out of Africa that we need to change the way the global politics is conducted.
Yes.
We've had William Ruto pushing for the change of the financial infrastructure as it is today. We had Yoweri Museveni call for change at the AU. We don't want to be called for meetings just to sign papers and make speeches and take photographs. We want to see real things happening. We want to, he calls himself a wealth creator. We also want to see as many African leaders being able to create wealth in their region. We also had Raila calling of Africa being a country with a lot of potential, and saying the minerals we have, what can we do with them? And therefore, we are looking for a leader from Raila Amolo Odinga who will bring changes within the AU that will make sure that this bloc can work together. If we come together as a continent and we harness the wealth that we have, which is underground. A lot of our wealth is underground. If we can be able to harness it together as a block, we'll be able to negotiate for a better deal. We'll be able to use that deal to bring development that is still lacking in many parts of Africa. And if we do that as a continent, united, we'll be able. Remember, the Western world and the Eastern world has been able to take advantage of us because we are divided. When China comes with its economic charms, we go to China. When the French come with their colonial ties, we go to the French. When the British come with their historical ties to us, we go to the British. We are never a united front. But if you look at the wealth we have as a continent, compared to that is found in Saudi Arabia or the Middle East, is more than what is in the Middle East. But how much have we been able to take advantage of it? The Middle East has been able to do marvelous things. Qatar was able to host a World Cup in the middle of the desert at the tune of $250 billion. Can we be able to do such an event even in Africa as a continent together by using the resources we have? No. If we want to do a railway, we must borrow. If we want to do a dam, we must borrow. If we want to do power, we must borrow. If we want to fight disease, we must get vaccine from the West. We must fight.
Are we self-sufficient?
We have not been able to take full advantage of what we have.
You're saying we are not self-sufficient? As Africa, I think
we can be self-sufficient, but we haven't.
Potentially, we can be self-sufficient. But as at now, we are not.
For example, when Ukraine was attacked by Russia, why did we feel our stomachs feel pain? Yet we have enough land to cultivate enough food from Africa. Why do we have to import cereals from Ukraine? Why do we have to import edible oil from Malaysia? Yet we have enough land, we have the weather, we have the human capital, we have the resources to be able to cultivate and produce enough to meet our own needs. But because we are still trapped in this perception that the West and East is able to provide with us, that we must import. We import 95% of what we consume. We export less than 5%. Yet the world is expecting us to realize our full potential. Yet we haven't. In the very soon, by 2063, we will be probably 50% of the population of the world.
That is, whatever we're talking about actually is on the front page of all the three papers I have here. Raila's show of power, that is on the front page of the Daily Nation, Raila's show of power. When you have got 8 regional leaders at the footsteps of State House, red carpet there, led by President William Ruto. It was a very big moment yesterday at State House, a very busy one for that matter. And now, one gentleman who is going to be very busy is Prime Cabinet Secretary Musalia Mudavadi. He's been charged with this mandate, clearly, for shuttle diplomacy. Doctor, look at the position of Musalia. And, you know, it was more unlikely when President William Ruto tapped him into his cabinet. And even by the time the cabinet was going through some sort of changes and all that, he was retained. But perhaps people did not see the reason why he was retained. Maybe, according to me, one of them is because of this reason. The process had already been started, and he was doing shuttle diplomacy across African continents, and the conversation was going. You'd imagine if Musalia Mudavadi was also shown the door. Dr.
I think going by experience and the person of Mudavadi, Olo, you find that Mudavadi is one of the most experienced politicians in this country. And this is also somebody who had worked very closely with Right Honorable Raila Odinga. And he's better placed. He's better placed to assist even in the campaign or coordinating the Raila's campaign across the continent. So the person of Mudavadi, according to me, has been reserved. Not necessarily for this position of AU campaign or coordinating person.
But because of the experience.
But because of the experience that he had. In fact, this is a gentleman who assisted Ruto when he was passing through the very kind of campaign that we have had, the Chensees and the likes. And even when he actually broke up the issues, the cabinet, the gentleman remained. Not because of anything else, but because, and of course, regarding that position of Mudavadi, it is an unconstitutional position. It is not a position that is contained in our constitution. But this one is being reserved for a particular purpose, which one of the purposes could be this one, but another purpose is actually maybe being the chief advisor of His Excellency the President. Because I believe Mudavadi is more experienced and more experienced than His Excellency the President himself. He's older than him. And in this case, also having Mudavadi as somebody who cuts across. Mudavadi is not so much inclined to a tribal cocoon. Mudavadi cuts across. If he goes everywhere, Mudavadi is just is more exposed to all of them.
You say Mudavadi is more exposed to the president.
In fact, when Ruto was a member of parliament, Mudavadi during Moi's regime, Mudavadi was the vice president.
I think it just brings some sense of,
he's an elder. And you cannot get away with it. Then again, I have also told you that historically, Mudavadi has been with Raila more than even the time he has been with Ruto.
Yeah.
And the man is better placed to mediate, or rather be in between. Because this also is somebody whom Raila can trust to transact this business.
Very good.
So in this case, I think also Mudavadi is being prepared for the future undertakings. I don't know which undertaking is that.
We'll be here to tell. What do you make of this headline, Engineer?
Well, it clearly demonstrates that as much as Raila has never been elected president in this country, he still has a lot of influence in the region. He has a lot of respect. You had what Obasanjo said, that when they came here in 1995 and he went back to Nigeria, he was arrested, and later he had the opportunity to be elected as president. So they both here in the East and in the West, it appears that Raila Amolo is a very big man. And therefore, as a country, we must also give him the kind of respect and support he deserves. As a man who has clearly demonstrated that as a single person, he's able to put Kenya at the right position in Africa. And therefore, that power that he holds right now, we have a responsibility to make sure as a country, we also conduct ourselves in the most responsible way as possible, so that he is not at the AU dealing with African issues, and we are back home, we have problems.
Yes.
So we as a country have a responsibility to be able to come together and be able to handle our issues in a better way than we have handled before, so that we demonstrate that the people we produce here to be able to handle African issues are people that we have cultured, people we have prepared very well because we are also a well-mannered country. So we as a Kenyan country, we have a responsibility to make sure that Raila Amolo Odinga, the power he exudes is the same power we as a country exudes.
Exactly.
I think there's something that I want to mention there, Olo. What I also witnessed yesterday, the talk that His Excellency the President actually alluded to, Right Honorable Raila Odinga. It is one of the kind of talks that I admired, and I realized that Kenya has come of age. Kenya, we have matured politically. Because if you compare the time, it is now 2 years since we ended up our last competition, politics. And the talk as it is now, Olo, you cannot tell the same Ruto today and the Ruto who was campaigning against Raila, and the talk that was there by then. Now, the talk yesterday was Raila as an international man, as a statesman who actually befits to be the African chairman, and this one is coming from not other person, but this Excellency the President William Samoei Ruto, and that shows that we have matured as a country. And our democracy has also matured, because we can differ today in principle, but tomorrow we are eating together. And this is the kind of democracy that we need in this nation. Raila and His Excellency the President Ruto, you cannot tell what they were 2 years back. Not even 2 years, 1.5 years ago. You cannot tell how they were, the hostility that was there. But as they are now, they are working as leaders of this great nation, and also beyond. Now we are talking about an African leader. So in this case, I want to laud this nation that the extent and the growth of our democracy is something we must respect as a nation. And I should also tell Kenyans that the difference that we normally see in our politicians is not an enmity in any case, Because look at what the kind of relationship that His Excellency the President has with his Right Honourable Raila Odinga.
Yes.
You would not have imagined. And those of us who fought some time back because of the difference between the two gentlemen,
yes,
I think we have been pronounced wrong.
We are known to be one of the best producers of tea and coffee in Kenya,
Yes.
in Africa basically, and we export a lot of it. But before Raila takes that position to export more coffee and tea, why don't we consume our own tea here on GMK?
I think you have spoken rightly.
Let's take a tea break. We'll bring back with more.
Thank you. Thank God for that remembrance and mindings.
Mtazamaji, tumekuandalia taarifa zinazogonga vichwa vya vyombo vya habari kutoka hapa jijini Nairobi na pia mashinani.
Wanahabari zaidi ya ubora wao wako ange kukuletea habari pindi zinapochipuka kutoka pembe zote za Kenya.
Kwenye kipindi cha Tamrini tunakuletea mazungumzo ya moja kwa moja kufafanua na kuangazia masuala yanayokuhusu wewe mtazamaji.
Kumbuka, taarifa yenye thamani daima hupokewa kwa amani.
Hivyo basi usikose kuungana nasi kila siku ya wiki.
Tukupakulie na tukutaarifu taarifa yenye mnato kwenye runinga unayoienzi. Kwenye kurunzi mashinani,
sisi DC.
The young generation awakens on Y254, the leading youth TV station in Kenya. We treat you to current affairs, entrepreneurship, health, and human interest conversations.
It's art, it's culture.
Movies, gossip and trends, sports, drama.
We bring you a vibe like no other, straight to your living room.
To keep you informed, inspired, entertained, and most of all, refreshed.
We are such a vibe.
Y254. Imagine.
Singing is really good and I really love it and I enjoy it. I would like to collaborate with an artist called Size 8 because she's really a good singer and I would like her to help me in nurturing and growing my talent.
I love today's book, and you know why? Because it has some of my favorite characters' names.
Today I'm going to show you guys how to make the yummiest chicken fried rice at the comfort of your home.
Okay, so we are good to go. I said before we import more tea and coffee, we consume it here, right, Dr. and Engineer?
Yes, we shall consume as we prefer.
Very good. All right, so here we are. The discussion we're having today, just wanted to look at what really happened. Yesterday, it's not something new, but yesterday was part of the climax of what we should be expecting moving forward. on the front page of the Star newspaper, it's more or less the same. Is Ruto game plan to propel Raila's AUC chair campaigns, that is. Ruto game plan to propel Raila's AUC campaigns. That is on the front page of the Star newspaper. Let me get to the Standard. Raila unleashed. Yes, Raila unleashed. That happened yesterday. So, gentlemen, well, the Standard newspaper, the Star, and the Daily Nation have their own rate. But let me come back to you. So, I really understand what you've said. There is one person who is supposed to do a very important job here, Kenyan, the Wanjiku. How is supposed to behave? I am really not so sure how we should behave at this particular point. It's akin to mgeni akikuja nyumbani, you must be in your best behavior. You don't shout, relax. Otherwise, they'll take this message home that kwa Dr. Rotich, kids are so rowdy. How are we supposed to handle ourselves as Kenyans or as East Africa? Because election is sometimes next year in February. So moving forward, how are we supposed to handle this? We have other competitors. We have other blocks who are also competing for the same position. It must be a very delicate position for us as East Africa and as Kenya. Let me start with you, Engineer.
Well, Raila has requires 38 votes or 34 heads of state to vote for him to win this election on the first round. Already East Africa has committed around 8 votes. We understand that he already has support from an additional 11 other countries, which we are not able to name. So if he confidently knows he has 19 votes in his basket, he's now looking for an additional 15 votes to be able to win this seat. Now, the most important thing he needs to deliver for him to deliver this win is to be able to convince not just the additional 15, but more than 15 countries, so that by the time he reaches that voting day, he wins it at 10 o'clock in the morning. Now, the challenge we have with this kind of campaigns is not the roadside campaigns we are used to. It means you have to meet heads of state, foreign affairs ministers, prime ministers in areas where there is a head of state and head of government, and engage them in areas of convergence, in areas where you as a candidate, you must demonstrate what you're going to deliver for them. And also be able to be challenged. For example, Raila is known as a reformist. There are heads of state who are not, don't share the same ideals. They have been in power for more than 40 years. How will you explain to them your ideas about democracy? There are issues you're discussing about minerals being harnessed and maximized in terms of wealth. Yet there are foreign countries that have a stronger influence in that country. For example, in the Francophone countries, they have to speak to Paris before they make any decision. How do you convince them to make an independent decision? We have areas like the Sahel region where already 3 countries have moved away from the Francophone. The Russians have taken over. The ECOWAS has banned them. So there are certain regional dynamics that he has to navigate to be able to win that region as a bloc. So we as a country, and even the people who are going to spearhead these campaigns, they have a lot of work to do in terms of convincing these people. And at a regional platform, Kenya has not been able to play this kind of game before. We've never had any of us holding an African position. The best maybe we have had is maybe in the East African region, where maybe you have somebody at the EAC, the Secretariat, at the UN, maybe a few. So this is an African continent where you are dealing with various countries, regions. The North Africa, these are Arabs. You have the West Africa. These are Francophone countries, predominantly Francophone. We have the Central Africa, where there's a lot of challenges, disease, civil strife. We have the East Africa, which is okay for you. We have South Africa, the SADC region, which must speak as one, as a bloc. they have maybe South Africa they listen to. You need to go and talk to them and understand what they want. And all these regions have an interest that you must be able to demonstrate to deliver.
Yeah.
And if you are not able to demonstrate that, you will have a very serious challenge in terms of convincing them that you are able to deliver. Already we have a candidate for Mauritius who can convince the South Africans. We have a candidate from Djibouti who can convince the North Africans. So we are left with only maybe the East Africa and the West Africa where there is no much of an issue. But those other regions, you must be able to demonstrate that you are able to bring their interests at the fore as compared to the candidates they have from that region. Yes.
Doctor, when you listen to Crispus, it means it's not an easy walk in the park for Raila Odinga or even for the secretariat who is going to steer the campaigns.
In fact, what I'm only relying on Secretariat Olo to spearhead the proper coordination of Raila's campaign. But personally, I'm relying on His Excellency the President, Ruto, to be the one championing, because he had always had a head start in most of the things that he has done in this country, I mean, in Africa and in Kenya as a whole. And if we look at the presidency and the president himself, His Excellency the President Ruto, he has a lot of respect in Africa. And he's transgressed all these areas, knowing almost at the personal level of most of the presidents of Africa. And I don't think the whole idea will be left to Mudavadi and the secretariats who have actually formed. I think His Excellency the President must spare his very vital time to go to these countries to campaign for Right Honorable Raila Odinga. And going also by what my brother said about the French-speaking countries, we have also those who are different or Islamic nations who may not be buying our idea. You may talk about our political difference as far as the level of our reforms.
Yeah.
You know, Kenya is being rated as one of the advanced democracy in Africa. And that also may bring some challenge to some countries, which of course they are still lagging behind and they don't want anything. They don't want to emulate what's actually happening in Kenya. And more so, as my brother said, that Right Honorable Raila Odinga has been a reformist, and they are always equating the changes that we have witnessed in this country as the changes that Raila contributed a lot in making this nation the way it is now, as far as the reforms are concerned. So if there are those who may not be interested with the reforms, I think those are some of the few roadblocks. But in my own prediction, Olo, I'm foreseeing a situation whereby Right Honorable Raila Odinga has an upper hand because of his very close relationship with His Excellency the President. And if the president will offer that valuable time to go personally and campaign for him, I'm very sure we shall garner more than 34 countries.
Yeah. Gentlemen, having this discussion, that this reminds you of the late Muammar Gaddafi, what he was pushing for before he exited the stage. He was pushing
for a united Africa.
Yes.
And he also foresaw an Africa that was, Mudavadi, not Mudavadi, but Gaddafi had identified how resourceful Africa is.
Yes.
And he was actually informed that we are only related to the West because they want our minerals. Because if you look at the European countries, be it from whichever area that they have been, they have always been interested in causing conflicts in those countries which are endowed with minerals. And then Gaddafi is one of those people who actually saw the potential of Africa, that if Africa will unite and harness their own resources, they will bring up an Africa that is self-reliant, independent, economically.
Yeah, Crispus, again, when you had the leader speak yesterday, it's about coffee, it's about trade, it's about non-tariff barriers, and etc., etc. Then they're still echoing what the late Gaddafi was rooting for at the same time.
Even as early as early this year, we had the International Assistance Development Conference here, and Museveni was alluded to the fact that whenever we are being called by these development agencies, it's not about borrowing money for me to be able to produce within my country. They make me borrow money to buy things from their country, to be reliant in their imports, not reliant in my own export. So Raila, Gaddafi, Museveni, and even William Ruto are people who are now saying Africa is rising. We need to change the way things are organized in terms of our economy, in terms of our social fabric, also in terms of our politics. For example, here, our political fabric has been challenged by the young people. They have said the order that has been there is not good for us. The kind of governance we have seen is not good for us. So therefore, even William Ruto must also demonstrate and be able to help in terms of making Raila's candidate either attractive to areas where the young people have strong influence. For example, in Senegal, where we had an AU commissioner chair was from Senegal, and the president there was refusing to let go power. And the young people demonstrated there and demanded for an election. And they ended up electing a very young man. So therefore, William Ruto must be able to show that in his own backyard, he has listened to the young people. He wants to do what they want. In the same way in Senegal, where they had an AU chair and they had challenges of their own. And we have many parts of Africa where young people are rising up. Even here in Uganda, in Tanzania, in many other parts of Africa, we have a bulge in young people. What these young people want is good governance. Can many of our leaders be able to deliver that? And therefore, if we can be able to demonstrate from within our own Africa, within Kenya, that we are able to take stock of the population we have, the constituency we have, and be able to deliver what they want, and use that to leverage in terms of convincing the other African state that what we are doing in Kenya is good for the rest of Africa. So don't bulge of young threaten your power. See that as an opportunity. The other opportunity we have is that this population, if we make the most out of it, not just in terms of taking advantage of our resources, by using the human capital to leapfrog our economies in a way that we are able to stop being reliant on the Western world, on the Eastern world, we will be a great continent. China is able to support its economy by its own population of 1.5 billion. How can then we use our own 1.5 billion as an African continent to be driving our own economy, increase the trade we have between us, fight disease, fight hunger, bring development, use low-cost technology to deliver development where it's not there. Let us not rely on expensive technology from the West. Let us look for ways we can come up with appropriate technology made locally to deliver development in areas where we don't have, especially in issues, for example, health, in education. Right now, as a country, we are struggling with teacher salaries, but we have more problems than the salaries. The infrastructure in our schools is very bad. What can we use to make sure that beyond the problem of teachers, we're able to deliver decent classrooms for students to be able to learn? There are areas in this country where people still learn under a tree 60 years after independence. How can we now use our resources and our technology, our young people, to deliver those classrooms? And those are the kind of conversations we expect Raila Amolo Odinga to have with these leaders, to show them that I am not coming here to challenge your authority because of my reformist agenda. I am coming to say, can we work with what you have and make your country better without being influenced by the West?
That reminds me of when Moses was just by the Red Sea. Alifika hapo akasema, mzee nimefika hapa, so how do I cross this, Then God asked him, what do you have in your hand?
Use that one.
Use that one, whatever you have. That reminds me of exactly that's what you said. But then, Daktari, moving forward, you can imagine the kind of work that is now left for the Secretariat. The shuttle diplomacy, whatever is working behind the scenes that we are not aware of. Until yesterday, we did not expect, nobody saw what was happening behind the scenes until we saw what we saw in State House yesterday. Almost better part of the day was all focused in State House. Perhaps, maybe not in details, but if you can, what do you think is going to be happening behind the scenes? State House, the Raila Odinga Campaign Secretariat, the shuttle diplomacy, phone calls here and there, doing follow-ups here and there. What do you think is now happening moving forward as we head towards 2025?
You see, Olo, as a country, we are now taking Raila as a project. And being a project, it's a Kenyan project. Because as much as we are relying on our East African countries to support us, the initiative is Kenya. And mobilizing both the manpower and the resources in the sense that maybe the financial resources, to enable Right Honorable Raila to move freely across the African countries, it is an enormous task, which of course it is not cheap.
Yeah.
And I expect the state to undertake that as a project. And also, place before Raila the real manpower who can deliver. You see, if it is our project, it means that we must plan well, we must execute well, and we must be seen as people who are serious. And in this case, Olo, and that is why I'm telling you that His Excellency the President, Samuel Ruto, must focus. And I believe much of the programs that he should be having, because the election is scheduled for February.
Yes.
So before February, maybe December, January, I think His Excellency the President should have sleepless nights or banning overnight holds to make sure that he plans well, he executes well, and he goes personally to transgressing these African countries by visits. Because this thing, what I realized the other day, Olo, is that there is this gentleman from where who went to Museveni. He went personally and requested Museveni for his support. So Museveni declined because he had already had a meeting with His Excellency the President Ruto in support of Right Honorable Raila Odinga. I expect so many of such visits by His Excellency the President. If we have to realize this thing, he should not leave the whole thing to the Secretariat and the likes, because we are talking about the presidents of of our countries. So the equal partner could be our own president, who would actually be, it will be easy, it will be easily hard. And in any case, I'm seeing this this campaign having a breakthrough in the end. Because when I look at Africa and the way Africa respects Kenya, you oversaw, Olo, when Ruto was visiting America, when Ruto was visiting France, when Ruto was visiting, he was talking not only as the President of the Republic of Kenya, he was talking as an African president. Yeah. And he was talking as representing Africa. So in this case, I'm seeing ourselves having an upper advantage because we have a person at the helm who has a respect across African countries. And I'm foreseeing Raila sailing through. And come February, it's not even prediction, it is beyond prediction. This is a sure bet, Lord.
You're a fortune teller. Sure bet. Crispus, the Secretariat, the kind of work that is now going to be happening, the proposals, the phone calls, you have to do a lot of follow-ups here and there and all that. What do you think is now happening in those corners, in those houses, in those rooms?
If I was probably the head of the Secretariat, the first thing I would probably do is gather intelligence as much as possible on the countries where I can easily convince and win my vote.
Yes.
You may not win all the votes from the African
and it is 34 plus 1 to win the first round.
You must be able to identify where are the low-hanging fruits. For example, yesterday he had the audience of 8 heads of state and government representatives. From those 8, even if they were to get you 3 candidates of their own, you're already at 24. Then if you say, as a country, can I look for 10? You're already at that. So there must be some mathematics you need to do and say, take Africa as a region and say, North Africa, who do I have an ally there? In West Africa, who do I have as an ally? In East Africa, I'm covered. In Southern Africa, who do I have an ally? Then you look at the intelligence. What are the things that I need to address in these countries? Even as when we are doing campaigns in Kenya, when you go to, if you're running for a county, if you go to this sub-county, the other sub-county, you change the agenda you address because every area has its own interest. So he must be able to understand what does each and every region looking for within the AU and be able to use the secretariat to capture the attention of the head of state in that area, so that by the time you get your 15 minutes or 30 minutes with that person, you are able to convince him that you are the right candidate for that region. Because you must demonstrate you're not just a candidate for Kenya or East Africa, you must be the candidate for Africa. Because once you get into that seat, you will not be speaking for Kenya or East Africa, you'll be speaking for the whole of Africa. There are conversations where you'll be required as the AU Commission chair to say, as an African continent, this is our position. And that position must be backed by the support you have from the people. So the better in terms of the votes or the support he gets in the first round is a demonstration that he has the overwhelming support of the head of state. And the only way he can do that is be able to fully understand what these leaders are. And that's the headache the secretary has in terms of understanding all these regions. What do they require? What do they want to hear from a candidate? What are the expectations of the candidate? What have the other candidates failed to do that have made these people be disappointed? What are the things that made people vote for a certain candidate and not the other one? Those are the things that they need to understand. So in terms of understanding or getting the intelligence of every country is very important. Then using that to actually capture the attention, the interest of those leaders is another headache for those people. Then also coming up with a narrative or the language on how to address some of these people. Remember, some of these people are coming from countries where they speak Portuguese, French. We are coming from an English-speaking region. You must also be having a team that is able to use this kind of language to market you in those areas. You must also be able to convince these people using your Kenyan culture, why you should be able to work together with those countries wherever you are seeking votes. So there are a lot of things that we're able to bring together in terms of capturing the attention of that one vote that you're looking for from every leader.
Let me ask you, how different is this campaign? Does it require propaganda?
You know, this is not tialala. This is not tialala. This is not tumesema. This is different.
Does it require propaganda machine well-oiled?
I think the driving force, although is about the perception. How are we perceived as Kenyans from African perspective? And that is actually very key in this campaign, because the African countries look at Kenya as on a head start in most of the things, be it on democratic advancement or maturity, be it on development, adventures. And I saw one of the talks that Kamal, the vice president of the America, he said that Kenya is a country that can catch up with this is a fast developing world, which they can come up with new and discoveries, I mean, very fast. And this is a country that can be depended on to deliver in most of the things that are actually, coming up. And in this case, if African countries are perceiving us the way the Americans are perceiving us, I think we have what it takes to get this position. In fact, according to me, although I look at it that Right Honorable Raila will have a head start of 35 votes. 35, minimum 35. And anything beyond 35, he may not can afford 40, but he'll get between 35 and 40. And what I'm seeing, he may actually end up with 36 votes in Africa, and he will win.
But this requires, it will only depend on how he will present his case to all those other blocks, the Francophone, the Anglophone, and all that, so that he will sell his agenda as the AUC chair. But then, look at it, Crispus, I asked, does it require propaganda? I mean, all these countries have different problems, you know, civil unrest in some countries in the West, mostly. Other countries also incline to the West, mostly again. Kenya, we also have our own inclination, certain, you know. But bringing these heads together and to speak in one voice is now the biggest problem that the Secretary is going to face.
You know, you're not going to campaign on the roadside or in the media. The person you're seeking to convince is one person.
One person.
The head of state.
Yes.
Who, even getting the audience, is not a walk in the park. You must plan, get an appointment, prepare an agenda, and use the few minutes he gives you or she gives you to really sell yourself, sell the country, sell the candidacy, sell the whole aspiration that you're bringing on the table.
And the aspiration of that particular country.
And then also you must demonstrate that you understand that country. That's why I say the intelligence of that country or understanding that country you're selling your candidacy to is very important. And that's where the Secretariat will have its biggest challenge. Because as a country, I don't see how we've been able to demonstrate that we have able to understand our peers. If you go to, for example, West Africa, how much do we know about Liberia? How much do we know about Senegal? How much do we know about Gambia? How much do we know about Mauritania? Where there are serious challenges, where we have heard of modern slavery happening. We have challenges in North Africa, where Tunisia, there are also issues of immigrants. We have Cairo, Egypt, where the military is still very influential. Come to Sudan, where there is no government in place. Go to Central Africa. Go to Niger.
It's not easy.
It's not easy. So when you say you want 34 votes, you already have 15. You already have 15 votes, which you don't know where you will get.
Okay.
So this is a very difficult task that they have decided to take on, and it will require every effort. And that's why I'm saying there is a possibility you people like the Uhuru Kenyatta will have to come and assist Baba climb this mountain. They failed Mount Kenya, but they have to climb Kilimanjaro.
Our tea is getting cold. Our tea is getting cold.
Thank you.
Let's take a break.
Thank you so much.
We'll be right back with more. When we come back, I want us to ask this question. Why is it that AUC is not so keen on former presidents? That's another thing. Coming back shortly with that. Stay with us.
Are you a talented artist? Or are you passionate about a topic you want to discuss? But money can be very hard to find for an upcoming artist. Don't worry, Studio Mashinani has got your back. Sign up on ajira.co.ke to book a session with your music and video producers across the country. Work on your music, jingles, spoken words, and even podcasts to realize your dream. All for free. Studio Mashinani, Radani Talent.
Brother Shisha, is your mind thinking what my mind is thinking?
Maybe this trash of a school is finally closing. Will you wipe that smug of a smile out of your face? Is that something to be happy about?
Now guys, I want us to write down the craziest, not the craziest, the most impossible day you'd want someone to do.
My guys, go on your pole, but this thing is very, very important. I gotta go.
What's the hurry for? You mean you don't want to fall in love? Now I'm the only way I can quench your thirst.
I do not have any thirst. Thank you.
Wondering if you'll be coming home. I've been listening for the phone. Seems like it's take a chance alone.
It has stopped this cultural diffusion, spreading fear and confusion, playing cloak under a wall, losing what you're fighting for.
Living on a highway, I ain't taking no calls. All my struggles in the rearview mirror. If you ain't going my way, then you can get off and turn up and let the music play. Sarah, I need you here with me. Don't leave me crying home again. Hoping I will understand.
And welcome back. So let's take let's continue with the program. All right. So let me ask you, gentlemen, when you see a couple of candidates who are also angling for the same position of the AUC chair, this question goes to all of you. Why do you think AUC is not so keen on having former heads of states, former government dignitaries, also people who held some high positions in different jurisdictions to take up that role as the AUC chair? Let me start with you, Dr.
I think, although going by that again, I think it is an African mentality because most African heads of state, the current one, the sitting presidents, would not wish to have their opponents, those who drawn them during the last campaign, to be in any position. I think we are lucky as a nation, Kenya, where the president, the sitting president, embraces the colleague who actually vote with him politically. But in African countries, you find that we are not like European countries. We are not even like Americans. You have seen what has been happening in America. Most of the former head of states, they are part and parcel of advisory teams who are advising the government. But how many in African countries are actually, how many can accommodate them? I think it is an African mentality, which of course we must remove that kind of thing. Because the former head of state, I believe, has a wealth of information, wealth of experience that can really help the sitting president to really propel and manage the country well. And I can say this is an African weakness. It is not something that is, it is not a strength, but it is weakness. Because like in this country, we have had former heads of state. The living former head of state is the president, Uhuru Kenyatta. And Uhuru Kenyatta was at the helm of Kenyan politics for 2 terms. And he wields a lot of information about the solutions of most of the problems that we have. There are those things that he failed to do. And he has the answers already for all those problems. And I longed for a time when the sitting presidents should be able to come up and then embrace those formers, those who will be able to advise them on the way forward. Because that is the only way to go. Old is wealth and old is gold. When you have a lot of experience, you help the community to propel or to go ahead. Look at the Obasanjo. Obasanjo is not a young man. He has lived as a president, he has lived as an ordinary man, he has lived as a spokesman, and up to today, he still determines the politics of Africa. So in this case, if we embrace such kind of people, I think they have all the wealth of information. And going forward, I'm longing to see Kenya emulating the same, where we have our past presidents seated with the current presidents, actually talking on the same understanding, advising on the way forward of the country, but not necessarily to cause the antagonism as to how the country should be led.
Yeah. Christmas.
Well, going by what I've observed, not just in Africa, I think even if you look at the UN, the EU, all these leaders who take over these organizations are either former prime minister, former foreign affairs ministers, or ministers from their country. I think it's probably international relations experts maybe need to advise us whether it's a tradition that was developed where a former head of state should not be able to lead this organization, probably because of the advantage they might have had when they were in power in terms of knowing certain issues about the countries where they are seeking support for, if they were to be elected the head of UN or head of AU or head of EU. Because if you look at, for example, the head of state of Kenya right now, the former head of state, Uhuru Kenyatta, the highest position he has been nominated for is in terms of bringing the peace process together for the DRC. Even Moi, when he had left power, he was still given the opportunity to spearhead the peace process in South Sudan, but nothing continental as is the case of the AU or any other office. So probably the advantage they have is the intelligence they have about other countries, certain decisions they might have made when they were in power. Maybe they might have brushed areas where with other leaders, so therefore it puts them in a very uncomfortable position to go back to these people and seek for vote. For example, William Ruto has had his own challenges with Uganda recently with the issue of the oil. We had our own challenges with Magufuli, the late Magufuli with Uhuru Kenyatta. We had our own challenges with Nyerere and Kenyatta those days. So we have had areas where when you are head of state, you have a bit of conflict with your neighbors, which is because of it's a hazard of the work. I mean, the work is not easy. For example, right now, Rwanda is not in very good relations with both Uganda, Burundi, and Congo. Now imagine Kagame has left power and is looking for the AU seat, and we as East Africa are supposed to vote for him. Yet there are historical issues that will come out where you, when you are head of state, you did not treat me with respect and decorum as an equal leader. So it is important that you avoid...
You have somebody who is neutral.
Exactly. So it's important you avoid putting yourself in a position where the other leader may start bringing issues that may put you in a very uncomfortable position.
Very well put, Engineer. But then now, when you had Honorable Raila Odinga speak yesterday, two things stood out. One, he was going to push for the scrapping of the visa, that if I want to come from here going to another northern country or southern country in the south, it's visa free. And number two is the non-tariff barriers. These two things have been in the discussion anytime the former heads of state meet, either here at KICC. We've heard that a lot. But why is it becoming a hard nut to crack for Africans? Engineer, you said that for you to go to a particular country, you have to go to another country's sky and go back to another country's sky, then land to... It's almost 48 hours of flight. Instead, just take like straight flight, land, do your business, come back home.
You know, the challenge we have as a continent, before the scramble for Africa, at the beginning of the 20th century, we were one block. I would move from Congo to the east part of Africa, which is Kenya. I would move from Sahel region to Cairo, selling my salt. I would move from the West Africa to Northern Africa without any challenges. We were borderless. But when the white man came, and we had what we call the scramble for Africa, they divided the continent of Africa into segments. And they decided those segments, whether we are here or we are not here, we will control them. And it is that control that the former colonizers of this continent have, this influence they have over us that still keeps us in small blocks. If you go to West Africa, they are able to move around each other's countries without any challenge. If you come to East Africa, we've been able to remove those borders. If you go to the SADC region, they've been able to remove. But when we come together as a continent, it becomes a problem. I don't understand why I have to queue at the Egyptian embassy to seek a visa. Yet it is they still call each other Africans. Why would a Ugandan go and look for a visa to go to South Africa? Yet we call each other Africans. It's because the white man still wants us to be that way. And by having those borders, the issue of now us not being able to do business with each other comes in. But yet for them...
Talk of a white man. Do you think even Africans themselves as the leaders are ready to open the barriers? Because, for example, for you to fly from Morocco, you'll have to either go to France, then circle back and come back to Africa.
The reason why we are not able, because we are still dependent on the West and the East for whatever we want. If, for example, you go to Congo today, 90% of what they eat for any meal is imported from Belgium and France. Because the French want these people to rely on them. So therefore they insist on those borders remaining closed. Who prints our passports? Who prints our currencies? Who sells our raw materials? It is these countries. So the West still wants to insist on those leaders. Please remain as you are. We will help you as you are. If you come together, we will not help you. When Gaddafi was trying to help us to come together, he was either finished or we were told we will not help you. So we need to realize that as a continent, there is a person or there is an entity behind there who is controlling us and making sure that we are not together. Whenever we try to come together, something happens.
Okay. Dr. Now, let's come back. You will also respond to that, by the way. Why the AUC is not so keen on former presidents or former representatives of different countries. But allow me to ask you this question as an economist. So, Raila Odinga is elected, all right, come 2025. Give me an outlook of Africa economically speaking, because we have got different strengths in terms of our output.
You see, one of the aspirations of Right Honorable Raila Odinga as the AU chairman is to break the barriers that we have had as African countries.
Mostly for the trade.
And mainly for the trade.
Yes.
I was listening yesterday in Parliament of Tanzania, and one of the members of Parliament was arguing this way, that why should the country deny us, he was referring cement, that the cement that are produced in Kenya are more cheaper in Tanzania as compared with the cement that is available there. So he was actually arguing that we should open our boundaries so that we can get what is cheap outside our country. The Tanzanian people will actually benefit from the same. So when you look at that, Olo, you know, the big barriers that, I mean, the big cause of the barriers that we are having are mainly to do with the economic activities. Because when you look at it, Olo, there are those industries in Tanzania whereby they feel they should be protected from the Kenyan industries. Because most of the industrial products that we produce in this country end up in those countries if the borders would be open. So what they are saying, the best thing is to restrict the inflow, if they are now in Tanzania, the inflow of the industrial or whatever products that are coming from Kenya. Because once they are there, they are going to kill the infant industries in those countries. And that also is replicated elsewhere, Olo, because most of the first world, people who are actually economically viable, they export their goods across the borders. And in this case, those other countries are feeling that the moment we open our borders, these people will flood their own things. Like in Tanzania, Olo, what I learned in Tanzania is actually they don't entertain what we call counterfeit goods.
Yeah.
And in this case, in Kenya, it is something that Kenyans are now fighting for. So if we open our borders, that means the same counterfeit goods will end up in Tanzania, which they don't want. They have actually tried to keep their industry actually intact. So in this case, Raila's vision, if it will ever materialize, I think it is a vision that the African countries will start benefiting from themselves. We shall be importing from Tanzania as Kenyans, and we shall be exporting, our goods to Tanzania.
Yeah.
And let me tell you, even as we are talking today, most of the foodstuffs that we have, which we call cheap, be it in form of grains, that is maize, be it in form of beans, be it in form of, most of the foodstuffs that we are enjoying in this country, like rice, they are coming from Tanzania. Why are all these things coming from Tanzania? It is because they are more cheaper there. And the production in Tanzania of most of the farm produce are cheaper in production. That is why they end up in our markets. You go to South Africa, you go to all these other countries, you find up to today we are importing eggs in this country. So if we open our gates, that means eggs from South Africa, eggs from Uganda, eggs from Tanzania will end up in our market. What will be the impact on our infant industries, the poultry industry in this country? It will definitely be depleted. So in this case, it is not benefiting Kenyans in any way if we close the borders. Neither is it benefiting Tanzanians. The moment we open our borders, the two countries will interbenefit from those things that are actually available in our countries. And in this case, it will open a vibrant economy in Africa. Because there are those things that are, like in West Africa, they are well endowed with coal, well endowed with oil. But most of these oil are exported elsewhere, when in Kenya we are importing from elsewhere. When Ukraine went to war with Russia, we were complaining about the soaring prices of oil. Why is it so when we have oil in West Africa?
Yes. Okay. Talk of former presidents. Why AUC is not so keen on the former president in 1 minute?
I know the biggest problem that we have in Africa. I talk about an African president who is fearful of the predecessors, those who took over from them. In fact, when an African president takes over, he creates an artificial hostility between the one that is outgoing. Take for example, for even our own country. We would have been able to see Ruto vibrantly closing, visiting one another with Uhuru Kenyatta. Why isn't that so? So the same hostility is actually replicated elsewhere in Africa, so that they don't allow even the former presidents to sit near to them because of the hostilities that are artificially introduced. So in this case, it is not a good thing. What I'm saying as an African is that we need to embrace the Africanism, and we need to embrace our former leaders.
Did you say as an African? Okay. I love that fact. Okay, gentlemen, allow me to put this way. We have got Agenda 2063 for AUC. And this one I'm getting from the website of AUC. It says that Agenda 2063 is the blueprint and master plan for the transforming Africa into the global powerhouse of the future. It is also the strategic framework for delivering on Africa's goal for inclusive and sustainable development and is a concrete manifestation of the Pan-African drive for unity, self-determination, freedom, progress, and collective prosperity pursued under Pan-Africanism and African Renaissance. So when you look at this Agenda 2063, Moussa Faki is getting out of office. Well, I don't want to give a comparison whether he has achieved or etc., but are these goals achievable?
Collective prosperity.
Prosperity.
That is the key word there. Collective prosperity, because that is what we are lacking as Africa.
Okay, all right. Let me give engineer. I'll come back to you, Dr.
Well,
okay.
Those things are very good.
Collective
the way
prosperity.
They are written. Collective prosperity, resilience, and all that.
Pan-Africanism and all that.
But if you look at when that agenda was prepared, which is back in 2013, it was a 50-year plan for the continent of Africa. What has happened in the last 10 years? Ethiopia has gone into civil strife. Sudan is at war today. Central Africa region has never seen peace. South Sudan, which had just got independence in the same year, we had challenges of our own. The DRC, yes, it has had several elections since then, but still, there is still war in DRC. The Sahel region has had several coups in that area, in Niger, in Mali, and the other countries. Chad, we have had a president assassinated. We have so many changes that have happened in West Africa. The only stable region that has remained is probably the Southern African region. So therefore, we still have a lot to do as a continent to be able to reach those aspirations. 50 years since it was a 50-year plan, 10 years already done. We have now remaining with that 39 years left to achieve this. It is a huge milestone. Yes, we must appreciate the support we have received from China in terms of helping us achieve some of the development challenges. But also it has come at a very high cost. We have lost a lot of the resources we are planning to use to leapfrog Africa to the aspirations we have there. We have lost a lot of wealth over the last 10 years with China bringing us roads. What have they taken away from us? We are having a lot of challenges right now in terms of our democracy being challenged. We are also having a bulge in terms of the youth. No job for them. These are the people who should have been engaged right now in work, in areas where those aspirations can be achieved. So we have a lot to do as a continent to be able to achieve that.
Yes.
It is a good aspiration, but yet we are very far.
We are very far. Did you answer that question about former heads of state?
Yes, I already answered.
All right,
yes,
Dr. So the Agenda 2063, he's given his insight on this one, but it seems that you talked of collective responsibility as prosperity of the continent. Are we going to achieve this Agenda 2063?
I think that
or are we close to achieving some of them?
Not so long as we are not at the same wavelength, the same understanding of our development. You find that in most countries of Africa, we still have a problem as far as the.
Okay.
We still have a problem as far as the.
I'll have to fix your microphone.
No, I will do that.
No, somebody will have to. Okay, let me come back to you very quickly. Wathimba, because now, let me get to understand how this one is working. Perhaps people might not understand what is the role of AUC chairperson. So somebody's going to fix your microphone just shortly. So the question is, do you people really understand the role of AUC chairperson? Let me get it. This is also on the website of AUC. And they say that the chairperson of the African Union Commission is the chief executive officer, 1, legal representative of the AU, that is number 2, and the Commission's chief accounting officer. Wathimba, these are 3 big positions. The chairperson of the Commission is elected by the Assembly for a 4-year term, renewable, all right? And then the chairperson's functions include 1, overall responsibility for the Commission's administration and finances, all right? Number 2, promoting and popularizing the AU's objectives and enhancing its performance. Consulting and coordinating with key stakeholders like member states, development partners. We also have RECs, we also have and etc. And lastly, also appointing and managing commission staff, acting as a depository for all AU and OAU treaties and legal instruments. This is a lot of work for one person sitting in Addis Ababa, Ethiopia.
The last time Raila
Yes.
Amolo Odinga had a day-to-day job, which is a day-to-day job there,
Yes.
was when he was 63 years old and he retired at 68 when he was the Prime Minister of the Republic of Kenya. Between 2008 and 2013 or 2012. Then he has not had a day job for the last 10 years or 15 years. Now he is going to sit on a, if he's given this opportunity, he's going to take a day job at the age of 78.
Mr.
And
Faki
with-
is 64.
And there is a lot of work ahead of him.
Yeah.
Now, this responsibility that he has been put on comes with a lot of challenges. There's something you've mentioned there, finance and administration. One of the challenges the AU has had, even us at the EAC, is that we are still funded by, part of our funding comes from donors. And it is those donors who call the shot. The European partnership agreement that Kenya signed recently has been a challenge because most of the East African countries were not willing to sign that thing because of the influence they had from the AU, from the donor countries. And it's the same donor countries who fund the EAC. At the AU, China is also a big donor. And therefore, China calls the shot at the AU. So we need to see if Raila can be able to marshal all the heads of Africa to be able to find a way where the AU can be self-funding itself with our own resources so that we remove the influence this Western and Eastern world has over the AU.
Yeah.
And we'll be able to make independent decisions. The challenge we have had with the AU is that we've not been able to arrive where we're able to make independent decisions about the affairs of Africa. Whether it's in COVID time, even right now we have MPOX, we still have to rely on those who fund us to make very important decisions. If we can be able to self-fund ourselves as a continent, then have the AU Commission chair move around, talking to leaders, listening to them, understanding their challenges, convincing them on what is important for us to work together, what East is saying about the West, what West is saying about the East, how we can be able to find points of convergence that can be able to help this continent to grow together will be important. For example, West Africa is where a lot of the immigrants who are dying in the Mediterranean Sea are coming from. But where do they pass through? They pass through North Africa, which is Tunisia, Morocco, and those countries. Why can't we as Africa have a conversation without the EU coming to direct us how to work together? But you find right now, Tunisia is promised €1 billion to be able to deal with the issue of immigration. What do they do with that money? They mistreat our black people. We want the EU chair to have a conversation with those North African countries and the West African countries where these people are coming from and understand how can we help to build the economy down here so that these people don't start migrating to the north. With this money you are getting from the AU, can it come and help these economies so that they reduce in terms of immigration? Those are the kind of conversation we have. Here in East Africa, why are we not doing business with each other? Why is Congo buying food from France instead of buying milk from Kenya? Or bread from Kampala? We need to have those conversations led by our AU chair. And if we can have that reliance as a continent, as a commission, then we can be able to convince ourselves to talk independently. Yes.
Dr. I think I'm going to push you because of time. 2 questions. Number 1 is about the Agenda 2063. You're answering that very quickly, perhaps in under 30 seconds. And then now, there's a lot of work for Baba in Ethiopia.
I think, as my brother has actually alluded well, that it also depends on funding. But my view actually is, with the right leadership, Africa has not been able to fund itself because of the African countries themselves failing to honor their responsibilities of contributing towards the plans that they have actually alluded in this the so-called blueprint. Because you cannot make a plan without putting actually the resources that are to be used to execute the same plan. Number 2, I believe what we have been lacking in Africa is the right leadership Because what His Excellency the President Ruto talked sometime in one of the African conferences is that we need to fund ourselves. We need to be able to contribute towards our funding process so that we can be able to be self-reliant on what we are doing as a nation, as an African continent. And in this case, if Africa will honor their pledges, if they will honor their whatever the plan that they have actually put in place, I believe Right Honorable Raila will have an easy time in executing the same blueprint. And what I'm also overseeing, as my brother said, as Raila as he is now, is an elderly person. And in this case, I think he must put up a very professionals who will actually execute what he wants. Yeah. He'll have to put up a professional team of experts who are going to be the secretariat in Addis Ababa. And these are the people who will be, it will be just another government. Yeah. It will be just another government, be it on economic affairs, be it on political affairs, be it on legal affairs, be it on what. I mean, it will be a whole web of secretariat that will help his, Right Honorable Raila Odinga to execute his mandate as the chairman of the AU. I believe it is not going to be very difficult.
You believe it's not going to be difficult? Let me quote what Mama Suluhu said. Tanzania anasema, baba anatosha achaguliwe. That's how Suluhu said.
Across the board, he's our baba.
He's our baba. And she said that in Tanzania they call her mama. Okay, gentlemen, we have to wrap it up there. I wish we had more time, but hey, we've done what we can. And the conversation will still continue because the journey is still long until election, which will be held sometimes in February 2025. Elections will be held then. But then Raila is also hoping to get 34+1 votes to win in the first round. And now what is now remaining is to hit the ground running for the campaigns. Crispus Wathimba, an engineer and also political governance and expert, joining me on set, as well as Dr. Rotich. You people, you've been grateful. You've been so gracious to us coming on set every time we call on you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Not taken for granted. Asante sana for watching. My name is Victor Lowe. Have a good morning. Bye-bye.
Mtazamaji, tumekuandalia taarifa zinazogonga vichwa vya vyombo vya habari kutoka hapa jijini Nairobi na pia mashinani.
Wanahabari zaidi ya ubora wao wako ange kukuletea habari pindi zinapochipuka kutoka pembe zote za Kenya.
Kwenye kipindi cha Tamrini tunakuletea mazungumzo ya moja kwa moja kufafanua na kuangazia masuala yanayokuhusu wewe mtazamaji.
Kumbuka, taarifa yenye thamani daima hupokewa kwa amani.
Hivyo basi usikose kuungana nasi kila siku ya wiki.
Tukupakulie na tukutaarifu taarifa yenye mnato kwenye runinga unayoienzi. Kwenye kurunzi mashinani,
sisi DC.
Thank you for joining us on Healthy Living. Stay connected to Voice of America at voanews.com. A look at your kidneys and how they impact your health. And an expert discusses chronic kidney disease and how to protect yourself. And Ivorian psychologist Noor Bakayoko shares some insights on bullying and what can be done.
It's important to avoid major events or major health crises.
How do you know if your cough is due to a serious condition? We'll have some answers. Stay well
and strive to make every day a healthy day.
The young generation awakens on Y254, the leading youth TV station in Kenya. We treat you to current affairs, entrepreneurship, health, and human interest conversations.
It's art, it's culture.
Movies, gossip and trends, sports, drama.
We bring you a vibe like no other, straight to your living room.
To keep you informed, inspired, entertained, and most of all, refreshed.
We are certified.
Y254. Imagine.
We travel about 200 kilometers from Nairobi to Nanyuki.
And to be specific, we are at the equator, which is latitude 0.0 degrees. And this line separates the northern and the southern hemisphere. This line passes through about 13 countries of the world, Kenya included. Nanyuki is a military town, and rightly so, because we have the 1KR here, we have the Laikipia Air Base here, and we also have the Batuk, that is the British Army training unit here in Kenya. We are here to meet one military veteran by the name of Douglas Kahando, who is about 80 years old. He was among the first soldiers to join the Kenya Army after independence, and also was among the first officers in the 1KR, which is right here in Laikipia. And he has actually challenged me to a workout after the interview. Let's go.
It's a cold and chilly afternoon, and we are received by one Kenya Army veteran, Warrant Officer 1 retired Douglas Kahando, at his home in Sweetwaters, Nanyuki. Officer Kahando was born 80 years ago in central Kenya.
Mimi nilisaliwa Nyeri, mahali inaitwa Luguru location of Mathira Division. Na nilisaliwa 1944. Na nilikuwa mtoto ya tatu in my father's family. Na my father alikuwa anaitwa Rufus Kahando Mari.
In 1967, Kahando was lucky to be enrolled in the army shortly after independence.
Pia kuna picha ambazo tunaziona za wanajeshi enzi hizo wakivaa kaptula wakati huo. Hebu tupatie taswira ya vile jeshi ilikuwa wakati ulipojiunga nayo.
Kaptula ndio ilikuwa uniform. Ile inaitwa ceremonial, na ilikuwa ni suruali ya kaki. Na hii suruali ya kaki ukiiweka starch, okay? Unaweza kuisimamisha namna hii. Walikuwa wanaisimamisha pale. Ikianguka namna hii, wewe bado kuweka starch. Ilikuwa ndio nguo ile maridadi. Tulikuwa navaa kaptura plus socks mrefu inafika hapo. Okay? Na iko bad, maua iko hapa. Inaonyesha your unit. Mimi nikaigizwa upande ya arms mechanic. Yeah. Hiyo ni kutengeneza bunduki. Hiyo inaitwa amla. Amla kijeshi ni food ya bunduki. Small arms and machine guns. Wakati utasoma hizo kubwa, ndio utaigizwa kwa armament technician. For 18 months, tukasoma. By then, upande hiyo ya bunduki ilikuwa na mzungu. Tukaendelea na mzungu akaenda. Tukapata Mwafrika. Mimi nikapostiwa 5KR. 5 Kenya Rifles. Yeah. 5KR mimi sikukaa. Nikapostiwa 1KR. Ambayo 1KR sasa ilikuwa wapi?
Hapa Nanyuki.
Ilikuwa hapa Nanyuki. Na already ilikuwa imetoka Nakuru. Imekuja hapa. 1974 nikaitwa para. Kwenda kuruka na maburi. Yeah, na nikaenda na nikaruka.
Among his duties as an armorer was to arm and repair weapons for his unit in readiness for missions.
Kaenda kutengeneza mabunduki northeastern, 1K ikiwa iko northeastern, ni tani yao ya kuwa northeastern. Okay?
Yeah, jua zile wakati wa mashifta hiyo.
Yeah. Ilikuwa nakaa unit inakaaga 6 months huko. Nikaenda nikatengeneza, Army naye ikachukua hiyo advantage ya mimi kuwa naenda kutengenezea 1KR. Wakataka nisunguke all units.
He was later posted to the Kenya Army Electrical and Mechanical Engineering School, KAIME.
Sasa nimetoka 1KR, nimeenda back to my mother unit, ambayo ni workshop.
After promotion, the army man later flew abroad to further his training as an armament technician, and upon his return, Kahando became an arms instructor.
Nikapata sasa sponsorship ya kwenda long course ambaye ni Britain ya 1.5 years. Kazi ya armament technician sasa, na ikawa sasa naweza simamia nini kikosi kama hii ya 1KR. Okay. Lakini mimi nikabaki huko KAIME kufundisha hiyo armament technician.
Ukakuwa instructor sasa.
Nikawa instructor. Kukaa hapo KAIME kufundisha, nikapata hata utu, na finally nikapostiwa 4th Brigade na nikapata O1. Sasa nikaja 4th Brigade hapa na Nyuki. Nikarudishwa Kahawa, nikaenda kusimamia ile workshop kubwa 86. Alafu nikakaa miaka 5 ndio nikaretire.
Hiyo ni 2001.
Having served as a time when part of the military leadership was still under the British command, Kahando notes the change to Kenya leadership fixed many challenges in the force, including perception.
Kulikuwa na upaguzi ndani yake, sababu good example ni ya kwamba mtu naitwa Major General Doro na Muringe. They were the first people kupata hizo cheo. Na wakapewa cheo ambaye hawageitwa officer. Okay? Walikuwa wamepewa jina Effendi, au wamepewa hiyo nini ka sign ya Effendi. Na iko wasungu wamepewa the same kwa sababu ndio my instructor. Na mzungu anapigiwa salute. Doro hagepigiwa salute. Ni officer Mwafrika, hagepigiwa salute. Lakini mzungu of the same rank anapigiwa salute. Kwa jeshi yenyewe kulikuwa kumetengenezwa tu barabara. Okay? Beside the main road. Okay? Waafrika wanapitia njia hii, Wasugu wanapitia ile.
Mko kwa jeshi moja.
Na mko jeshi moja. Hata ingawa sisi hatukukaa muda mrefu na Wazungu hawa. No. Kwa sababu tulikuta wamebaki moja.
Kahando reminisces on the transformation in the army of the years that has made work easier and more efficient, including on military ranks.
Kitu kama buduki. Hata buduki silikuja tukawacha zile tulikuwa nazo ambaye zilikuwa na bao. Sasa zimekuja ambaye siko na plastic. Kazi ambaye tulikuwa tunafanya sisi kama amra kuchonga hii mabao. Sasa imekuja iko na plastic. Sasa ni kubadilisha.
After close to 35 distinguished years in the army, and reminds soldiers to prepare a safe landing for life after service.
Hiyo kazi haipende kwa sababu ni nzuri. Kwa hivyo vijana ya siku hizi wanaweza kujimudu a safe. Akipata chirigi moja, atumie sumuni afiche somewhere.
In 2012, Kahando was enrolled in Baghdad, Iraq, as a guard under the United States government.
This was 2012. 2011 nikaenda Jordan, nikaenda nikafanya test ya kwenda Iraq security, na tukaandikwa na American, na nikakaa huko 2012, nikarudi hapa 16.
A family man, the former army man credits his family for the support.
Niko na familia, niko na watoto 5, vijana 4 na msichana 1.
Kahando reminds Kenyans on the essence of peace.
Middle East ni mahali iko na pesa mingi sana, lakini they don't have peace. Anytime bomu inaweza kulipuka. Zile nichi nimeenda ije, ukisema umetoka Kenya, unaona hiyo mtu amecheje na furahia. Unasikia anakuuliza, can you learn? Unamwambia, oh yes, I can learn. Up. What?
Even in his advanced age, Kahando is still a fitness guru, a tradition he has kept alive since his time in the army, and takes me through part of his fitness regimen.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9.
I must admit, I had a real hard time catching up with the veteran. And as to who won the workout, your guess is as good as mine. Since his retirement, he has embarked on business and farming, which keeps him busy in his expansive farm. And as we wrap up the interview, it is evident that this astute soldier is still as energetic as ever and wants the best for the country. For Military Tales, I'm Ben Troenjue.
And you are just in time for our next conversation. And as I had mentioned earlier, we are looking at fake news or fake information. How exactly do we get to deal with fake news, especially on the internet, since we are living in that era where everything has gone digital? So how do you get to decode fake news? And joining me for this particular conversation is, I have two gentlemen with me. On my immediate right is John Mutunga, and John Mutunga is the founder, CyberPro Global, and my far right is Samuel Karaoke. Samuel is EduTech Manager, CyberPro. Welcome to the show, gentlemen.
Thank you so much. Okay.
All right, when we're talking about fake news or fake information, this is generally just misleading info that is not factual, right? So how do we get to differ fake news or fake information from misinformation?
Okay. First of all, when you are dealing with fake news, we are talking of fake news as information that has not been verified, information whose sources are not factual. And so when you're talking of fake news, we should be aware that we may talk of misinformation and disinformation.
Yes.
When talking of misinformation, we are talking of information that was sent not necessarily to cause harm, but it was sent as a mistake maybe. But it sent the wrong message. But when we're talking of disinformation, this information was sent with an intent to cause harm. Maybe there was some monetary gain to gain out of it. So when trying to solve this issue, number one, let's say it's information, let's say it's in an organizational setup. You need to educate your people. You need to educate them that in order to authenticate this particular source, go to this site is the legit one, don't use this other site. So education is a very important stuff when talking about how to decipher fake news and legit news.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. And still on that, maybe to you, John, how do we decode, fake news exactly?
Thank you. Mostly I would say information which is sent to the public or which is published for the view of the public, the only way you can decode is knowing the right information. And the only way you can know the right information is by being informed first. If you are not informed, you must be inquisitive. You must choose to distrust the information which is on, you are either perceiving or receiving or which is being pushed to you. You must decode it, you must understand it, you must distrust it, and that's when you will be able to walk above the fake news. Yeah. Without the knowledge of decoding, you might just absorb every information which comes to you. Only data that comes to you, you might just take it as a positive data and take action about it, and then they are determined or acts about it. Yeah.
And in line with that, as I mentioned, we're living in a digital era. Information is always on the tip of our hands. All you need is just to have a phone with you, and you can get any kind of information, and all that it takes to share fake news is just a simple thing. Just share, and the next person will also share and share. So do we really have the time to fact check? And how can one go about fact checking before maybe sharing information?
Okay, it's for a fact that most of the social media sites we have, they are engineered to the trending stuff is the one which will come first.
Yes.
For example, let's talk about Twitter. When you're talking of Twitter and I want the word ABC to trend, I'll just tell multiple people, please key in the word ABC, ABC, ABC. But that word ABC, it doesn't necessarily mean that the word is, maybe ABC is not necessarily the legit news. It can be a fake news.
Yeah.
But using these certain social media sites, what I'm trying to say is that some social media sites are structured. You can't be able to really tell what is factual and what is fake. So it's upon you to research it for yourself from the legit sources. For example, if it's anything to do with cybersecurity, maybe the company CyberPro Global, we are good in cybersecurity. Go research based on cybersecurity with CyberPro Global. Or if it's another company, let's say maybe it's banks and you trust Equity, you only deal with Equity, but not just any other source of information. So it's really important that you know the sites that you're visiting and the legit ones in that case. Yeah.
Now, clearly, social media is one of the places where fake news easily gets to spread, So how exactly can we go about combating that spread of fake news or fake information, specifically on social media?
I'll think on that. I will just say, I didn't say this. Most of the social medias were built for the sake of, I would not say fake news, I would say disinformation. The social media platforms, most of them feed people with disinformation.
You feel like they were specifically made to disinform?
To disinform, because if people knew how truly you are, they would not read about your story. So you go to a place whereby you're only alone, you feed the information of the place, of what you are doing, and you put only the good part of what you are doing. And then everybody absorbs that and takes that as the right information about who you are. And the only way, one of the ways to debunk that is first to create a kind of a national commitment to whatever you are doing, knowing that there are things you cannot just put online. There are people you cannot talk about online. There are areas of patriotism you cannot discuss on social media. And when I talk about patriotism, I'm talking about be able to love your country enough not to talk about some stuff which you think it's devaluing the nation itself. You have to love. If somebody says something like, somebody just writes something like 500 people die in I would say Tugen or something like that, on a bus to a funeral, and the first thing you will think about 500 people in a bus, on a lake, at Stugen. Those things don't exist. It's very easy if you distrust everything you see online before you first absorb it. It's very easy for you to be able to identify fake news. They always come as fake, and it is easy to tell, but people usually look at the person who sent the news. If your cousin sent you the news and your uncle is the one who distributed, you just look at the chain of distribution and quickly absorb the news and take it as a national news. And sometimes it hurts people, sometimes it devalues people, sometimes it's just propaganda. And when I talk about propaganda, it's with political gain, either to lose an opponent or to fight an opponent over the media. The best approach to information is to educate yourself with the right information, educate yourself with the right content, and absorb the right content, and you'll be able to debunk what is wrong and what is right at the first instance. There's also an issue of influencers. The influencers are the guys who are paid specifically to push agenda, whether it is for profit or for just for fun. So the society must be very sensitive, must be careful about information that is coming from social media and it has an influencer tagged to it. You might find that somebody is selling, I wouldn't want to give a live example of an instrument that is used to clean a car, and the instrument looks like it's a big bottle of an instrument, but an influencer is saying this is a 2 kilograms of products built up with this product, and then you end up buying that thing, and when they deliver to you, you just find it's a very small thing, and it's not worth the amount of money which you paid, and you feel like you just dug yourself in. So the best approach is be informed and ask people whether is this true, is this information true, before you even comment about anything you see online. If you don't trust it, ask someone else. Be somebody who is inquisitive. Carry the act of zero trust. We find that zero trust platform has really helped people to achieve things which they could have lost a lot of monetary value or their essence of life. But if you don't trust everything, you'll be able to trust something which is legit. Thank you.
All right. You know, looking at the situation that the country is in right now, where we have leaders having issues or having problems with the younger generation, specifically the Gen Zs, you know, it's so easy for one to just use social media to disinform people. You know, just use it to disinform, and it could cause so much harm. And, you know, when it comes to digital, you know, and social media, to be specific, most of the times you don't even know where this information is originating from. You know, because sometimes one can just use a pseudo account and put it out there. So is there a way to just, can someone actually follow a pseudo account and get to the actual person, you know, ICT-wise?
ICT-wise is very possible.
IT-wise, yeah.
IT-wise is very possible. The security organs of the nation are able to follow you up and know where you're located, which IP addresses you're using, which equipment you're using for spreading the news. And one thing we could say, it's easily that everything that is online is always being watched, whatever you place online. But sometimes people check, and even the security organs check and say this is of no importance. But there's a level of, like I said, patriotism. There's a level of love for your nation whereby you cannot spread some news because you know the effect of those news. There are things, even as we talk about free press and the gutter press and the
freedom of speech.
Freedom of speech. There are things that we if you love your nation enough, there are things you cannot even say online. And that is the first thing which will change our nation, by first loving your nation enough to look at what's the effect of this information I'm putting online. What will happen if this goes through? Are you educated enough to understand that whatever you are putting online might have a detrimental effect even on a child? For example, somebody takes a photo of a child who has been hit by a car and puts it online. For what purpose are you put it online? To tell the other guys that Kenyatta Avenue is not good for cars to pass through? It's just some information we share online is of no importance.
All
it's
right,
just
allow me to cut you short.
Yes.
We take a short commercial break and then we come back.
Is your mind thinking what my mind is thinking?
Maybe this trash of a school is finally closing. Will you wipe that smug of a smile out of your face? Is that something to be happy about?
Now guys, I want us to write down the craziest, not the craziest, the most impossible day you'd want someone to do.
My guys, when you are poor, but this thing is very, very important. I got to go.
What's the hurry for? You mean you don't want to fall in love? You know I'm the only way I can quench your thirst.
I do not have any thirst. Thank you.
يا ما نفسي أعيش إنسان قلبه على كفه كل اللي بردانين في كفوفه يتدفوا.
Mojawapo ya mambo ambayo tunapaswa kuzingatia ni kama vile kumchagua mke ambaye anamtii Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, anamcha Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, vile vile pia humsikiza mume wake na kumtii na kuhifadhi amana ya mume wake.
Wa in amartaha ata'atika, ukimwamrisha mke wako anakutii katika maarufi, katika mambo mema, mambo ya khairi, mambo mazuri, yule mke wako anakutii. Kila anachokufanya chochote lazima akusimange, mpaka atakupatia nickname. Kuna baba mmoja anasema mke wake alikuwa anamtesa, akampatia nickname anamuita Shetani. Kwambia Shetani, chakula kimeiva.
على طول مش لي ولا حتى روحه ملك ايديه.
Ever crazy.
Wewe hata niongee.
Unasonga kuliko
televisheni kidogo ndio hii mkasema quick batu. Mtasema ha batu.
Undoubtedly entertaining.
Anguka nao check it. Anguka nao.
And mind-boggling. The savage netizens.
Wacha nilie kwanza.
Capturing that unique moment.
Tunasonga kuliko nduthi.
Welcome back and thank you for staying with us. Now, to you, Samuel, are there red flags that one can just see from the get-go and know that, I think this source is not really credible, or this information that is being spread here is not factual?
Yeah, there are red flags. For example, we are talking of news that, let's say, for example, KBC is the one which we are used to receiving news from, the legit news from the government. But then all of a sudden, you see there's another site or there's another TV station that you people never knew, but it's giving the same news. That one you need now to you need to do a factual check and check, by the way, the credible source that I know is KBC. But in this case, I'm getting news from another person. And we should also be aware that most of the people who usually bring the fake news or they misinform others, they normally use the trick in cybersecurity. We normally talk of it as social engineering, whereby you just lure someone by some common thing that you expect the person to maybe to be able to click, for the person to click to gain something or something of the sort. So it's very possible for you to know if something is real or if something is fake by just factual checking at the source. Yeah, so the source can really tell you.
Yeah. Maybe what are some of the fact-checking resources that are there?
Okay.
Yeah, we're talking about fact-checking. How does one go about doing that?
Now, when you are talking of, let's say, for example, you're talking of websites, there's this good site called whois.com. Whois.com tries to tell you, for example, it's a certain domain. You can just search for a certain domain and just tell, who is the owner of this domain? Is it a legit site? So you can be able to tell. Also, there are other sites, for example, like VirusTotal in cybersecurity. It can tell you, by the way, has this site been reported for any phishing? Has any phishing ever happened? So you can tell by using tools like Whois, VirusTotal, yes. Yeah.
Okay. John, I would love you to take me through the process of evaluating you know, of evaluating the credibility of a source?
Different informations come to people with different kind of attachments. For example, if you are looking at a content which is political, you first need to know the source of the content. Who wrote the content first? How long has it been in the media platform? For example, you might find a content which has been running for the last 3 days, and nobody is talking anything negative about it. Everybody is supporting the motion and talking about whatever is happening in the country today. For example, I wouldn't want to use Kenya as an example. I would use US. We'll be talking about the status of the last debate between Trump and his friend. And the information coming from there is one guy was goofy, the other one was doing so well. And you want to see what is the mainstream media talking about it, not the gutter press. Mainstream media, it's like you want to know what CNN is talking about, what Fox News is talking about. And that, by knowing what they are talking about, you'll be able to place yourself in a place whereby you can comment about the situation in that country at that time, or the situation of the information which you are receiving. Another thing is carrying the heart of zero trust, which I talked before. Carrying the heart of zero trust helps you to quickly decode any information which you find it's not, which you feel it's not correct. But I don't know how you would go online, find a guy who is selling a car at 300,000, and you don't have a way to compare what's the price of the cars in the market at that time. You could easily be siphoned of your money by just picking up the news and putting it up as you are. And even people end up paying. And you ask somebody, why did you pay? I didn't know why I paid, because this guy was very convincing and the information is put. Sometimes people even put information. We had a case whereby somebody traveled from here to Kisumu to just go and collect a car which was virtual and it was not there. No. And he finds there, the guy changes his mind and says, I'm in Mombasa. I wasn't actually in Kisumu. I told you I was in Mombasa. So get informed, educate yourself with how media trades work. Again, we also look at the state of the government. The government needs to put statistics in place whereby we could have somewhere where you can post news which you feel like this news is not correct. That's very necessary, to have a place whereby you can post news which you feel it's not true news. And then quickly that platform should be able to report to you, this is fake, this did not happen, this happened, and this is true, it happened. Because based on that, we'll be able to decode the power of the media campaigns, whereby people are paid to spread the wrong news and people are paid to post wrong news. Like of late, I've realized every time something is the hot news in the nation, somebody places an advert there which is not even part of the hot news. And you wonder, what this advert is supposed to pick up people and divert them to their products or to their services. So being informed is very important, and we are working as a company, we work on developing a kind of a media knowledge of the status of the security solutions in the country. And we are involved in training people to understand how to even decode this information. We are involved in building a culture of people who love their nation and understand things which they can put on social media. Some of them might not help, and even helping people decode the social media information as fast as they know them. So you would fall into the trap of just picking up everything that is thrown to you and keep on disturbing it and distributing it. That's what we work for. We work for developing that kind of architecture in people's minds, an ecosystem whereby you'll understand what is true and what is false. I'll give an example of a biblical thing which happened in the country, in Israel a long time ago. And these guys were sent, 12 people were sent to go and bring news about a certain country. They come back and say, the people of that country are very big, they're even 10 times bigger than us. Only 2 guys gave the right information. The other 10 gave wrong information. We need to be among the 2 people who understand the right information. When it is posted online, you easily can decode it. And you can only learn that by reading, by studying, by educating yourself, and you put yourself in a group of people who speak the truth, so you can decode the lie. Thank you.
All right, Samuel, maybe who is responsible in ensuring that the info being put out there is factual?
Okay. Who is responsible? I would say the social media sites. For example, I would say for me, to make sure that fake news do not spread, I would say the social media side should allow us to be able to report fake news. So after I've reported the fake news, the social media site itself will be able to flag
we are
it
having
down.
a problem with your mic, so maybe John can get into that as they check on your mic. So who exactly is responsible?
The individual who is posting the next post is the one who is responsible. The source of the information is also responsible. But most of this information, some of it is not, it does not damage a lot. It only damages sometimes reputation, sometimes damages the state of the nation, sometimes damages the... There are things which will be posted and we realize the guy who posted is dumb. He's not a smart person. There are things which will be... Like, we have a case whereby a Kenyan person will say, my name is Kinodia or Ajiru, and then puts a photo of a Chinese. And you ask yourself, why would you do that? And you are trying to show that you have a connection between Kenya and China, and this is the real you. If somebody picks that information and shares it again, you definitely don't know what you're doing. So the best thing is we hold people responsible for what they are saying online. And if we hold people responsible, it's very easy for somebody to say, I'm not going to share this because I don't know who is going to come after me after this. Yeah. So the person who shares the next share must be the one who is responsible for the whole distribution of the information. Sometimes it's political and it's propaganda and just wants to tear down one person, another one wins. That's unacceptable. But it's not acceptable in a case whereby, we had a case whereby somebody said, if you give me this, I'm even going to change the voice of the media. And I asked them, so who will be responsible for changing the voice of the media? Even the press print will be saying number 2 is winning and number 1 is losing. And you ask yourself, how do you get to that level by changing the voice of the media online, not physically? It's by hiring like 2,000 people to post wrong story about one person, so that people might have negative impacts, might have negative perception about the person. So the person who shares next must be the one who is responsible. Sometimes it's only the sometimes the source of the information is also responsible for it. Yeah. So,
sorry, Samuel, you can carry on with your point. Who exactly do you feel is responsible?
I actually can't say who exactly, but I can say the people who take part in this ecosystem. Because remember, we have the social media site, which is a platform, and we have the people who are posting. So we have two parties. And the two parties, they play a very important role in disseminating this news. So on the part of the people, as John has said, the people should be held liable for what they are posting. But now when talking of the social media sites, I was now saying the social media sites should also give us the platform for us to be able to report fake news. For example, Twitter, I've seen they have implemented that actually. You can see that maybe there's something that has been reposted, and then you see has been retweeted, and then you can see there below it has been written. They can just write there a context. Context, people have put this one, maybe it's fake or something of the sort. Yeah, so the sites also, they play a very important role.
Now, I want to carry on with that, You know, every choice must have a consequence. You know, and are people usually held liable for spreading fake news, specifically in this country? Have you heard of people who, is it punishable? Are people being punished for that? Because as you mentioned, even when one uses a pseudo account, you said with IT, someone can actually locate who exactly is behind that pseudo account. So has it been punishable?
Most times it's possible to punish someone, either physically or even through the social media. For example, you write something which is wrong and somebody exposes you who you are, and then you are able to be found. And sometimes it's just exposed that you are telling a lie. Nobody wants to be exposed that is lying. Every time you expose somebody that is lying, they feel bad. So the only way we can say people are able to be punishable, sometimes there are issues of national security, which now that is punishable by the government. But I feel that for total collaboration with even the society itself, the civil society, the government, and even the academia itself, we are all responsible for what people are consuming, especially in the social media. Whatever we are consuming, all of these three people are concerned. For example, the civil society is supposed to be the advocacy for the public and talking about what is bad for them. If information which is coming from them is also not true and it's not a real information, then they should be held responsible. And maybe there's a law that because that also. There are also legislations which I think the government is putting in place on issues of cyber and cyber espionage and the political and the cyber war and things like the invisible war, I would call it like that. The whole social media is war by itself. It's a platform for every kind of, it's a platform for governance, it's a platform for education, it's a platform for religion, it's a platform for even for raising up kids. So we can't say that you'll be punished for telling parents how to dress their kids when they are going for a certain game, even if something happens while they were there. But you should hold yourself first responsible and punish yourself first. But if you give out a wrong advice in the media and it does not make sense, or it affects the other party. So part of it, I would say there would be need for regulations, which I think 50 they are not there. There will be need for inclusivity of building the national strategy for information online, data online, and data protection, which I think is there, but it's not deceived by the public. I feel also there is need for inclusivity of the academia, mostly, because we would say 50% of the active guys in the social media are the guys in school, are the guys who are in the academic industry. It's possible for the people in academia to learn and decode and even de-escalate information that is not correct. Like you write something wrong and these guys will tear it down and tell you this is not right. And even if you say X will say, if everybody is saying it is not right, X says this is not right and you are supposed to remove it. Many times I've commented things online and it is removed by X and I have to write why I wrote it like that. So some part of the punishment, some of them are physical, others are not implementable, but others are implementable, even through the government. You can be followed up and imprisoned for saying something which is not right. Sometimes I even see stuff online and I ask myself, where can somebody just go and get this guy, tell him to explain what he's truly saying? Some information is not patriotic, some information doesn't change the nation, some information does not even build the nation. Yeah.
What is the impact, general impact of fake news?
The general impact of fake news is that it can make people do its effect. For example, I've told you maybe, you know, I remember when back then, I was hearing of news that people were saying that Jesus is coming. Then you had everyone now started reacting, selling shambas, doing such things. So your fake news can make other people do things which they were not intended to do, but it is really bad news. So its effect, it can affect negatively. Yeah.
Maybe how can media organizations, because they are responsible with putting out information out there, how can media organizations and technology companies work together to combat, you know, this vice?
There is a media council which vets what you are putting in the press. There is also the education list. The people who are training, the people who are going to work to the media council. I think there are rules which are governing the code of ethics and how to work. And if information is not correct, it's possible tomorrow to be on the news that this information was passed on by this media house and it is not correct. I feel that it's one of the ways having a unifying point whereby information is vetted because before it goes to across Africa. I would not say even in Kenya, across Africa. You cannot write something like April 14, April 1 every day. So everybody knows April 1, everybody writes a fool's thing. But you cannot write a fool's thing every day. Every day. Sometimes I feel like one day the media should just wake up and say, today we don't have news. And just pass over the day. They don't have news. What would happen even today, even if one day KBC just say, today we don't have news for 9 o'clock because we don't want to tell a lie. Today we just decided we don't have news. Oh, the news was just one item. The rest we just go and have some advertisements. Why? Because people right now are informed of what is happening, but people are not sure whether what is happening is the 100% the truth. And sometimes the media houses get the information from X, even get information from Facebook, and put it as the main information. Is there a place whereby all of them could unite and say, vet this information, whether it is correct? Is it true? Should we put it online? Is it possible to have that? And then that will come only by education, by knowing that what is the effect of what you have said? What is the effect? If we print this, what will be the effect of the people? Because people is the most important thing for everything. What will be the effect of what if we print this information, we put it on the media, what will be the effect? Look at the effect even in 10 years to come. For example, somebody is complaining that for the last many years, children in school have been learning about the books they have been reading about political status of a country. I would say even the person who printed people like Francis Buga, Man of Kafira, Betrayal in the City, they end up building up a child who is not complete. And we might end up having kids who are not even complete later. People who are thinking about politics and fighting the government and not loving your nation. And maybe in 5 years, everybody will just be provoked and they riot. So you look at what is the effect of the information you are passing to the public, and whether that effect might be detrimental even to your own kids. That will help so much if people could vet and decide that I'm not going to write this because maybe if kids in school read it, they may practice it 2 years to come or 3 years to come. Look at the detriment of whatever you are putting online and then try to control that. That would be perfect.
All right, and just to put it out there, KBC journalists are well trained and they're Media Council of Kenya accredited, just to put it out there. Well, what are some of the effective ways of correcting, info that had already been put out there? It is fake news. It's fake information. It's already been spread. How do you go about, what are the effective ways of correcting that? And it's already out there.
Okay, if the news is already out there and you have already known the source that took it was the fake source. Now, to do a reverse of it, I think the best part over here is now the credible source must now say, okay, what was said before was wrong, but me as a credible source, I'll put this as a legit news. So it's very important for the credible sources or the legit sources to state their stand on that particular news.
Maybe I comment on that. There is the same thing we said, influence campaigns. If information is out in public and it is not correct, you need to de-escalate the information, the state of the information. And some of the areas of de-escalation is influence campaigns. And I know the media knows how to bring that up and tear it down and make it look better than it was published. But it is good for the public to realize if people say you are bad in this aspect, why don't you do something good to cancel the bad? If something is written online, you can get your friends to just say it is not correct. There's nothing wrong like that. I've been involved with the march with the Middle East, and I know much of what is happening in the Middle East. And I found myself as a voice to de-escalate issues which touch Africa and touch Middle East, because most of what we train comes from Middle East, and we train much on cybersecurity and media and stuff. And I find it so important that if there is so much bad information about you, about an organization, about you, about a situation in the status of the country, you have to do something to de-escalate the status. One of the ways is speak positive about it, put conferences and speak about good things happening in the world of whatever you are doing. De-escalation is one way of fighting wars and fighting media wars. By de-escalating, you'll have to create a positive image of the negative image which was put forward. And I think that works so well. De-escalating is just try to make it look easy, make it look not difficult, and try to to negotiate even with the person who is spreading the fake news and tell them, for sure you don't have to do this, it is building bad reputation for the country and even for the people. And people usually listen and they change their face. I remember last week, this vocal guy of South Africa was asked, why is it that whenever you're in the media houses and you're talking, you are very composed and polite? But when you're in the public at the parliament, you make so much noise. And this guy said, in the parliament, I only have 5 minutes. So I have to be so loud so I can be heard and so that my idea can be passed on to the public. But in the media house, I'm compelled to speak whatever I want, and it doesn't bring issues. So he's good at media house and violent at the parliament. Some people use that as their defense mechanism. One, you can de-escalate that or devalue that for the sake of peace. Thank you.
Okay. Now, before we come to a close of this conversation, how will the advancements in AI, because now AI is already here with us, how will the advancements in AI affect the spread of fake news in future?
The advancements of AI will highly affect it. Because when talking of deep fake, negatively, very highly. Because when we're talking of deep fakes, we have heard of deep fake videos whereby you can see the president is speaking, but it's not really him. Such things. And so in such stuff, it's very critical that we as maybe now the cybersecurity industry, the IT industry, we come together and talk about it. For example, we as a company, we have a conference called the Cyber Week Africa Conference that it's coming. So we should we talk all about these issues and how to solve them. For example, AI. AI will bring up the issue now of fake news will now be rampant because many people will now be making news using the deep fakes. So it's very important that we as the industry, we sit down and come up with solutions about them. Yes.
Maybe if you can add on to that, as you also tell us, maybe just projecting, what are the potential solutions to address such, specifically when it comes to AI?
I'll a little bit disagree with him, and we can fight after this. But people are trying to push AI as one of the main things that will fight and will cause the world to be a worse place to live in. But
is it not true?
It's not true. AI will not affect it. Not make the world a worse place. If you remember, the old guys used to drive cars which you want to put gears. Now cars are automatic. Now they have even brought in cars which run by AI and they don't need a driver. AI will make things better. So with AI, you'll publish a wrong content. AI will be able to decode the code and realize its code and take it down. With AI, we'll be able to send positive information to wherever we want. Despite its presence, we will still have control of whatever it's doing. The only thing it will do good things quickly and bad things quickly. And
But
that's
still,
where we will fight.
You know, when you talk about that, you say that it will actually help in maybe decoding, you know, some of this. But I'm sure that by now, I don't know if Samuel will agree with me, I have already seen, you know, a clip where they assume this person is talking. For example, it's Vivian, and I'm talking about something, and it's definitely not me. Like, it's already there. They've taken your voice because your voice is out here on social media. You know, when we finish this interview, this clip will be on YouTube, you know? So they can easily pick my voice on YouTube and just have it as me. My face is already here. It's on screen and all that. So when you say that it will actually help, I would say that it has the negative side. So that's why I was asking if there are potential solutions to address that.
At advanced countries, every machine learning, they are building a next to machine learning to monitor the machine that is learning. So the code which is placed on this and the bots which are running this machine have another bot which is watching over that one. So at the same pace they are running, each one is watching the other one. Because right now we know AI can easily, robots can defy what you want them to do. They can do the opposite of what you want to do. But as human race, and I tell people that the AI will just make things better and faster. And we have control of whether it's bad or worse or worse. We have control of that. The fear which we are placed on by the fake news is that AI is going to annihilate us and going to keep us.
So you're saying we have consumed fake news on AI?
We have already consumed fake news on AI because I believe cars will be made easier, people will be able to communicate easier. I'm now able to talk to somebody who is in Afghanistan face to face. I wouldn't want anything like that to pass through my... So everybody should build his life knowing that technology is coming to help us do things better and faster, and we will control whether it is going to be. Only that if it lands in the wrong hands. For example, I sat on a meeting whereby somebody was talking about building an aircraft and how they print. Sorry, I used the word print, but that's exactly what they use. They print an aircraft wing. One wing of the aircraft is printed. And then somebody hacks the system and they cuts the wing in the middle and they just builds it the way it is, but it has a crack. So after some time, the wing breaks up. And you have to repeat all what you did. So there will be good people try to stand and bad people try to help. And many try to shut it down. Many times, good people always win. We have to know that because good people are more than the bad people. And many times, the bad people make so much noise until you think they are more than us. We are more than them. On September 23rd, we have a conference at the University of Nairobi talking about such a thing. I would invite everyone in the nation to come. September 23rd is called the Africa Cyber Week Conference, which is a yearly conference. We are talking about cyber, AI, artificial intelligence, invisible war, and things like cyber security as a military warfare. Those are things we are talking about. And building an ecosystem, skills gap and opportunities in the cybersecurity industry. That's what we are doing.
Okay, that's very important information right there. I hope that they have received your invite and they will show up in September. Now, this is where we end our conversation for today. We will definitely create time. I feel like we've gotten a topic for another day. That is on AI. Because I feel like we really need to talk about AI because there's misinformation out there on AI. So we'll create time for that. Thank you so much, John Mutunga. Thank you so much, Samuel Karaoke, for joining us for this conversation. And this is where we put a cap to today's Good Morning Kenya. Thank you so much to each and every one of you who has been tuned on the show. My name is Vivian Dagwa. Until next time, do enjoy the rest of your viewing. Goodbye.
Mtazamaji, tumekuandalia taarifa zinazogonga vichwa vya vyombo vya habari kutoka hapa jijini Nairobi na pia mashinani.
Wanahabari zaidi ya ubora wao wako ange kukuletea habari pindi zinapochipuka kutoka pembe zote za Kenya.
Kwenye kipindi cha Tamrini, tunakuletea mazungumzo ya moja kwa moja kufafanua na kuangazia masuala yanayokuhusu wewe mtazamaji.
Kumbuka, taarifa yenye thamani daima hupokewa kwa amani.
Hivyo basi usikose kuungana nasi kila siku ya wiki.
Tukupakulie na tukutaarifu taarifa yenye mnato kwenye runinga unayoienzi. Kwenye kurunzi mashinani,
sisi DC.
Thank you for joining us on Healthy Living. Stay connected to Voice of America at voanews.com. A look at your kidneys and how they impact your health. And an expert discusses chronic kidney disease and how to protect yourself. And Ivorian psychologist Noor Bakayoko shares some insights on bullying and what can be done.
It's important to avoid major events or major health crises.
How do you know if your cough is due to a serious condition? We'll have some answers. Stay well
and strive to make every day a healthy day.
Kati yangu na wewe nani anaweza piga mwingine?
Isipokuwa mimi naseeka, mimi nilikuwa mchezaji ya wrestling.
Ulikuwa mtu ya wrestling?
Yes.
Yaona. Mark that. Tuendelee.
Mimi sasa nikienda kwa dobi, ani kombolesha nguo nivae, nitakuwa nimehandle stolen property.
Unakomboa? Kwa sababu
wewe unaelewa sheria kabisa.
Makoa hiyo unasikia kwa hapo ni kuajiriwa na ajiriwa. Na kuna suti za kukomboleza hapo. Wewe toka wende. Kwa maanisha amepatikana na nguo ya wishi. Nani alikuwa anatakana kushtakiwa? Ni mimi ama ni huyo?
Mzee, tuelewane hapa.
Sasa huyu mtu kwa bahati mbaya si alifunjwa paka poni, mheshimiwa.
Alifunjwa?
Paka poni, mheshimiwa, paka poni ya huku.
Do you know I know the owner of the laundry?
Shut up. You are talking with me.
Sasa umeanza nini?
Sasa anaanza kunitusi
na wewe umeanza kuambia watu shut up kwa nini?
Sasa niaulize swali ya maana.
Don't try to confuse me.
You are confusing me.
So hii suit imeandikwa nini?
Sickle cell warrior, proud of it.
I'm a sickle cell warrior. I'm happy I just turned 30 years old last week.
I'm a content creator, and of course, the reason why I'm here today is because I'm also a sickle cell warrior.
Sickle cell anemia is one of the group of inherited disorders known as sickle cell disease. It affects the shape of red blood cells, which carry oxygen to all parts of the body. Red blood cells are usually round and flexible, so they can move easily through blood vessels. Two sickle cell warriors explain more about the condition.
Sickle cell is a genetic condition that affects the red blood cells. So by it being genetic, it means that you have to get it from both parents. Both your parents have to be a carrier of the condition for it to manifest in a child. So that means for me, both my mother and my father were carriers of the gene, even though they were not aware. So that is how I came to be born with the condition of sickle cell.
Sickle cell anemia is a blood condition that affects the red blood cells. And this red blood cell of people who are having sickle cell, they are not the normal biconcave shape. Biconcave, I mean, in biology we were taught how it was. It was round, but not round, a circle, but it's a biconcave shape. Now this shape helps it to go through the veins, the arteries, and all that. But for people with sickle cell, they have sickled like a C-shaped red blood cell. This is because they were born like that. The bone marrow has a defect that produces this red blood cell in this sickle-like shape. Now, when this sickle-like shape transport oxygen, they don't carry, first of all, the enough oxygen that the body requires. Second, when they move, they tend to block the arteries and the veins. So that's when you feel pain. Yeah, because when it's blocking somewhere like here, that means this area is not getting oxygen. So organ damage is a very common occurrence in people living with sickle cell. And any other, and pain is a sign that you have sickle cell crisis.
According to the World Health Organization, WHO, 2/3 of people affected by sickle cell worldwide live in African countries. It is the most prevalent genetically acquired disease in the region, and the survival statistics are stark. Despite its disabling effects, which can include severe pain leading to infections and fatigue, it gets less attention than it merits.
Came to know that I have sickle cell a bit later in my life, maybe when I was around 10 years old is when I started noticing I'm going to hospital a lot. Then I started listening in keenly to what the doctor was saying and my mom was saying, and they would call me a sickle cell patient or a sickler at that time, of which right now we don't really use that word. We prefer being called sickle cell warriors. So I wanted to know more about it, and understand why really do I have to keep going to hospital, going for appointments, while even other kids are just in school. I find myself that most times I keep falling ill, getting like infections, like chest infections and all that. So that's how I came to know about sickle cell. So as I was growing up, I just came to know more and more about it. The first thing for me that stood out is the way I'm different from others is that apart from getting sick a lot and needing to go to the hospital regularly, I had jaundice, which was causing my eyes to be a tint of yellow, which was different from other kids. So even in school, I remember this created a bit of concern, because when you're a child, you never really want to be different from others. So for me, that was the first thing that really impacted me, whereby I felt a bit of insecure about it. But I just tried my best, because now I started trying to understand how can I get rid of jaundice or maybe feel better. Then I was told always drink a lot of water, so that's how I incorporated that practice in my life, just drinking a lot of water, eating a lot of green vegetables, even though as a child they were disgusting, you know, those mboga kienyeji and all that. I did my best. Yeah, even eating healthy, keeping warm. Like when I used to go to school, I'd have to wear a t-shirt under, you know, the normal school uniform. So those are just things that became part of my normal practice, which maybe for other people were not normal. But for me, I knew that I have to do this for my well-being. So that's just how growing up with sickle cell was for me.
I was diagnosed with sickle cell at the age of 7. And at that time, even Kenyatta Hospital